Hello, welcome to episode 136 of Dissonant Waves. My name is Domino. Ritz and Trix are here again,
Hello.
Hell yeah.
and we've got the All Stars. We've got the three big ones. We're in our third week of our fifth Wave Emo Summer 2023 draft.
Oh
We've
yeah.
got Parannoul, we've got Home is Where, and we've got Origami Angel. All new releases. We're covering all right now. And I know we talked about doing some writing bits here and there. I did not have a chance to fully write out my thoughts, but I do have
I
some.
didn't either. I have some too.
I think we all know what probably like the biggest album of this week is that we're going to cover, and I kind of all suggest that we cover that last and go with the
Yes.
other two first.
Yes.
And
That's fine. I would like to share some opening thoughts when you're ready to throw it back.
yeah, I just figured I'd get that kind of all in a way here first as well, just so to kind of all on the same page of how we're going to cover this week.
Yeah.
That's it.
Mhm.
Back to you, Dominic.
Yeah, okay. So, we're covering After the Night, the live album by Parannoul. We're covering The Brightest Days by Origami Angel, their mixtape. And of course, the new Home is Where album, The Wailer. And for me, these three albums represent a big moment in Fifth Wave Emo in very different ways. They are very different things to these very different acts. Parannoul going from this 2021 anonymous musician to still being anonymous, but having this huge set, this huge just concert with Asian Glow there, with Broken Teeth there, people from the scene that are also in Korea.
Just to interrupt you as well, a big thing of Parannoul's kind of aesthetic when To See the Next Part of the Dream broke out as well is that he was kind of a shut-in. So to see having this kind of big gig, yeah, it's amazing fucking stuff.
Yes.
It's amazing step, and that was apparently his first show. So, God, what an amazing evolution. Then you have Origami Angel getting into the songs they were writing during the pandemic, changing up their sound, going a bit more mainstream pop punk, exploring other sonic avenues in which they can keep continuing to expand. And of course, Home is Where doing something very different by pioneering their own sound and going from more of what makes them them in a very specific way. So three very different bands, three very different areas of their career right now, but all still falling under this weird umbrella that we call Fifth Wave Emo. And we've loved these bands for one reason or another as we've covered this scene.
Yes.
I guess one other thing I will say, this is a really queer and left-leaning scene. This is a very experimentally, sonically just thing that can't be really tied down. It's global. It's a rejection almost of the stereotypical straight white cis man band kind of thing. And I think these three bands do a beautiful job of like representing that. And it's hard to boil down a scene to just three acts, but if there were three that we could choose, I think this would be the closest we could come to.
Yes.
Now, that being said,
Yeah,
you seem hesitant.
no, I think there might be. I'd have to think about it more. Maybe I would change one of them, but I think when it definitely comes to us in this podcast, maybe it definitely is.
Yeah, I'm talking.
Like I'm trying to disagree and I'm struggling to, but I feel like there might be one that you could swap out.
Well, name it. Who do you think it would be?
I probably think it would be Origami Angel.
Yeah, I mean that's fair that they do fit the white cis, it's presumably straight like man band thing, but they also
I
count.
don't even think it's that though, but it's like I also feel like there is actually a reason to consider them because Somewhere City was pretty critically acclaimed in the scene.
That's a big important thing, and also them very much still exploring beyond what Somewhere City was doing. That's the genre experimentation. That's the sonic, far reaches that they're exploring. Whereas Parannoul has a style, Home is Where has a style, and they're exploring those things in their different ways.
Mm-hmm.
But if you
But
could
I
swap
want to
them out,
start.
who would it be?
I don't. It's. I don't think that the fifth wave is done yet. So maybe we'll
No.
find another artist that breaks out. But if I had to go into what the current fifth wave is, and it's like that's where it becomes a more of a question of what we do. Like, do we add in one of those more experimental sounding ones? Do we say it's like I mean, they're very young in their career, so don't actually say that I'm choosing this artist. But what if it was, say, a Stomach Book that's on there that was pretty critically acclaimed from us? That was a big representation of a more experimental side of it.
Yeah.
Sure, that's fair. That's definitely a more uniquely fifth wave experimentation.
Yep.
Bigger Boot's kind of the same way.
Yeah, and as much as I want to give the Aussie pride and pick Bigger Boot on that one, I feel like Stomach Book is the one that's a bit more. Well, one, it's more commercially successful. Obviously, the big congrats again to getting the 1,000,000 streams on Animals to Stomach Book.
Absolutely, that's amazing. Congratulations on that.
Mhm.
I
But
mean, it could also say artists like Weather Day maybe or Glass Beach if we want to put into that one. But I feel like when you go into artists, I think those ones have good albums, but we'll have to wait and see until the further. I don't know. I feel like it's a bit quick just to say like if these are the three big ones out of the scene. One of them I'll fully fucking agree with because they're one of my favorite artists just of all time now.
fair enough. But again, I
Yeah.
can only speak to the podcast because that's the lens in which we've covered all
Yeah.
of this. Like
Yeah,
I wouldn't.
I think for the podcast, you're all right. Those are probably the three.
Like I wouldn't be doing any of this listening if it wasn't for this, right? I wouldn't be here at all.
Yeah.
The
So
important thing is that I brought all three of these artists onto the podcast, and my music taste is based. Thank you very much.
Very much so.
Gloat all you want. But I think there's
I
an
will.
important discussion to be had, of course, in Origami Angel and the Brightest Days. I think we could start there. Of being
Yeah, I
those-
think this is the right one to start with.
Yeah.
because we talked about last time about Pool Kids being a really good entry point that people can get into if they like Paramore, if they like pop punk stuff like that they could get into emo that way. And I think kind of like that, if not even more so, that the Brightest Days is also a really good entry point
Yes.
because it has the stuff that Origami Angel does really well. It has the heavy breakdowns. It has a lot of different ideas going on. There's some ska. There's some just weird, interesting stuff that they're doing. But also, it has the upbeat positivity. It has those things that are not super emo, but they have the emo at their core.
Hmm.
Like, there are moments in here where I'm like, if Ryland really tried it, but he could do a Billy Joe Armstrong impression.
So I will agree with you on the sense of I actually think this is probably Origami Angel's most accessible work, just into
Yes.
coming from the more mainstream sound of it. It does sound like Origami Angel's kind of more dabbling in that sound. And look, if they still put out EPs like they did last year, showing their range and stuff like that, and decide to do what I call the flume pathway, which is put out an album that's really commercially successful, so that like after you got all the success on that, you can put out whatever the fuck you want next year. Which is why we get albums like Skin and Palaces, which were okay. They still had some of Flume stylings. It is more critically successful stuff. But as albums in full, they were just okay efforts, but they had quite a lot of commercial success. But then we also got mixtapes like Hi, This Is Flume, which was nowhere close to commercial successful with how experimental it was, and was fucking brilliant. And if that's what Origami Angel wants to do, I hope that's the path that they go through, because I never like going to an artist and going like, no, don't take the commercial route when you can get quite a lot of success from that, because it's almost like you need money, and money can be used for goods and services.
Yeah, that's fair.
$20 can buy many peanut.
However, like,
But
the thing we've kind of discovered too. Go ahead.
I'll let you go. I was just going to finish my thought. It's just saying that I feel like this is an album in which we go, is this an entry point? And then I have to consider, like, are we basing it just off accessible or accessible and quality? And I feel like if we talk about the full lengths in full, I mean, granted, this is Cricker, so that's also other parts to put in there. There's a lot of different contexts that you can put in. But I feel like consistent wise, quality wise, I feel like Cool Kids is like just the better record, because I mean you could get somebody in to say this is what it sounds like by an album that's really generic, and then they'll go like, okay, yeah. And I mean if it's their first time hearing that type of sound,
Sure.
then I don't think generic is going to be an issue if you haven't heard it before. I mean that's that's what the Seinfeld effect's based off, is everybody not liking Seinfeld as much just because they've seen everybody that's copied it, so it's like they like
Right.
think they saw first on here. And that's just the only kind of argument I have calling this a better entry point than Pool Kids, but I also said last week as well that they're on well, it was last week, I believe. I'm trying
Yes.
to judge
When we
all my
covered Pool
times.
Kids.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Is that there's many different ways of entering in this type of genre, but do you think this could potentially be a different entry point, or do you think you'd be entering from the same direction?
That would be a different entry point. You know, this is again, I think more of the if you like Green Day, if you like something that's just more generically pop punk, then this is something you could probably slide in because it's 20 minutes. It's a different kind of sound, but it sounds similar enough. I think you could get away with it.
Yeah, I can see that.
Like the thing to mention is that I don't necessarily think that this is going to be where Origami Angel goes from here on. Every release they've done since their first couple EPs has been super different. There has been not a whole lot of consistency, but they've been very consistent in that. You know, like Gen 3 EP was about a Pokemon 4-track based thing, and that was also like right after the Holy Split EP split thing, and that was came after the Quiet Hours and Doing the Most, which were like the most general EPs that they had. But then of course you get Somewhere City, Broke Minecraft, that being like a weird live thing. Gami Gang being like the double album that follows up from Somewhere City, the Depart and Return EPs being their own weird, different, like extreme explorations, and this also being like it was a mixtape, but also kind of being an extreme exploration, but like kind of mixing them together instead of having them be separate.
It just occurs to me now that Origami Angel doesn't really do concept albums; they do concept EPs.
Yeah, they do concept EPs, they do ideas. Like they just like, wouldn't it be fun
Yeah,
to do this? And like
and
it's
so I
this.
just want to quickly say
Yeah.
as well, this is advertised not as an album but as a mixtape, if I'm correct. Right?
Yes, because it's not meant to be the follow up to Gami Gang, but it's their next project, so to speak.
Yeah.
Like, you know, it's different enough. The songs are different enough that it's not meant to be a cohesive thing, even though I think it's still pretty cohesive. But
Yeah, no, I agree with that. Like, after the first couple listens of this, my thoughts weren't this is a mixtape. This is a mini album.
yeah, basically.
Yeah.
But like as we kind of saw in the interviews and things that I was linking to at least, this is stuff they were writing in 2020. This is 3 years, you know, like after the point, right? So they have a ton of shit they're probably doing since then that we don't know about yet because they are like putting things out when they want to, and they're still being pretty prolific. But if they're 3 years removed from what they're doing, that's quite amazing.
Yeah.
Like the thing that this was happening, this is all being conceptualized and written before Gami Gang was even out or even really talked about.
Yeah, I mean the things that they would have been releasing in 2020 would have just been the Origami Angel Broke Minecraft EP.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
this was stuff that was being written like right after that. And so I think that shows that they have a lot of just good ideas that have lasting power that stand to the test of time within like this own little era that we're in of like what emo is doing. All right, there's nothing that's quite out of date, even if it is 3 or 4 years removed from when you're first writing it. And that's I mean, I'm sure other bands do that, and you always hear about some other band. Oh, I have this song from 10 years ago that I'm finally putting out, but it just seems like I said Radiohead. Jesus Christ, Origami Angel has so much shit up their sleeve that like this is just a pit stop on the way to something else.
I mean, I'm sure as well that if these are all songs from 2020 that they've actually finally now recorded and published, we probably have a shit ton of Origami Angel rarities, B-sides, deep cuts, off cuts, or just like like just written songs out there that are just waiting for an album or waiting for a release. I mean, Gami Gang was a 20-song album. It wasn't like, oh yeah, finally we found 5 good songs. I mean, I still like Gami Gang. I didn't like it as much as you, Dominic, but I still liked it enough for it to be, I'm pretty sure, in my top 10 of the year.
Yeah.
So it's not like, oh, they're putting out every fucking song in that case. It's like, I'm sure if you've written and recorded and produced 20 songs, you probably have at least 3 times that.
Yeah.
In the whole written or cut or in your
Conceptualized.
discography, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like maybe you didn't record 30 more, but maybe you have 10 more that were recorded and scrapped.
Maybe some of them are only half written as well, but there's probably a shit ton of ideas that they haven't quite fully realized yet.
Yeah, and maybe that's
to
their
be honest,
next step.
I feel like I would have rather seen some of those ideas instead of some of the songs that we did get off this this little mini album though. I'm going to just go out and just say my thoughts about this mini album as well.
Yeah, we might as well get onto it.
Full dive into it. I think when it comes to all the full lengths that we've covered from Origami Angel, including the EPs and stuff like that, this is probably, just as a full release, my least favorite Gami Gang release. That being said, though, whilst I do have some issues with some of the songs, I would say half of these songs I find really just uninteresting, especially for what the band can do.
Sure.
I think the other half are actually like some pretty good releases in Origami Angel's discography. My PG County Summer was one of the songs that I wasn't into when it was released as a single, but I've actually come to warm up onto. On the other hand, Thank You New Jersey was the other song I didn't like as a single, which I still think is just a really fucking cheesy song.
Yeah.
I still don't get how that's more cheesy than something like Ruby or Sapphire or Emerald.
Because Ruby goes off.
Like, yeah, but like I think New Jersey has moments that really go off too. Like the part about where he's talking about fucking Pangea, like it's weird and kind of just stupid, but in a fun way.
The Pangea moment is like the only part of that song in which I go like, okay, at least they're going so full into it that it's kind of fun there.
Yeah.
But that's like the only part of the song. The rest of it, I'm just like, it exists, man, and at its worst, it's cheesy in a bad way. I'm sure there's some kind of whole thing about New Jersey people that I don't relate to or know really that much. I know I've seen enough American cartoons in my life to see people rip on New Jersey, but I've never been there, so don't ask me about it.
I'm just from New York. It's hard coded in my blood to hate New Jersey.
Yeah, I was gonna say let's ask our resident Eastern Coast expert.
Fuck New Jersey.
Yeah, fair enough.
I believe Ryland's mother is from New Jersey, and that's kind of where at least some of this is coming from. So there's that.
I'm sure your mother is lovely, but fuck her still.
But I mean, that's Origami Angel off the possible interview list.
But I mean, I don't disagree in that. I think this is in some ways one of their weaker releases that we've covered so far. Like Gen 3 is such a small track list and has a lot of high moments. It is very compact because of it. I would think that would be the other one of the stuff that we've covered that's kind of in that ballpark ish. Because I think Somewhere City and Gami Gang are just untouchable. Like they're so fucking good.
Well, I want to compare this a bit to Somewhere City because this has the same start and finish structure as Somewhere City, but nowhere near as good. The Brightest Days and Few and Far Between are the same as Welcome to and The Air Up Here.
Yes and no. Like they do similar stuff, but it doesn't fully loop completely.
No, it's not the exact same song, obviously, but it's a very similar structure or a very similar existence reason for the songs.
Yes. They like to do their bookends.
Yeah, but the bookends were they did it a bit on Gami Gang as well with the trap beat and
That's fucking hits though. Yeah.
Yeah, the trap beat is different enough in how it sounds. It is bookend. Let's not act like Origami Angel was the first band to ever do a bookend. Let's not even act like they're the only band to do a bookend in this episode.
Yeah.
But the bookends on this album in this case, like they sound so much like what they've already done, and I don't go like, okay, cool, they've done it better. Like if you're gonna do what you've already done, it has to either be better or I'm just not going to listen to it again.
I don't know if I agree to such like harsh extreme as like either has to be better or nothing. Like I think what they're doing is different enough that I don't mind it because I think this is more of an exploration of having those sunnier, beachier beats but the lyrics are still pretty down and dour and depressing sometimes. And sometimes they're more hopeful, but they're more exploring that huger contrast. And I think that's interesting.
Now, there is one genre that you mentioned that this album does go to, and this is actually one of my favorite moments on the album, is that you mentioned ska.
Yes.
Yeah, and I believe you're talking about Kobayashi Maru.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is one of their better tracks. Like
Yeah.
they basically made a Tony Hawk's track.
Yeah, and I
And
love that for
what-
them.
Yeah, no,
Sucks.
that one's one of the most interesting songs on here, and yeah, it goes pretty well. I mean, lyrically, they aren't doing anything different to what they've already done, but we don't really expect that from Origami Angel, to be honest. So I don't mind as long as it's still catchy, which it kind of is on that song. So that's all I really care about. And yeah, it's one of those quick, fast. It's not quite a ska song, but you can see the ska influence in it.
Yeah.
But I mean, even other things that I think that they've kind of done before, but are doing it again in a new sound. Like something like "Looking Out," you can point to like Greenbelt Station as a comparison point.
Yeah,
But like, I think "Looking Out" has the advantage of being more raw, shorter, and just it just comes across as even more genuine because of it.
yeah. No, looking out is probably one of the moments in which I'll go like, yeah, I'm down for this one because you're all right. It almost feels like basically a demo track, but it feels like it in a good way. It feels like just a very short little doodle, I guess, that this album has on it.
I think I posted the part of the interview
Yeah,
that I was looking at where he's just like, "Yeah, we just kind of had me doing some chords, and then I just started singing something, and then we got it."
but I mean, just look even at the album art on this, which looks almost like fridge magnets. I believe they are spelling out the title over.
Yeah,
It's not quite a beach, but it looks like it's near the ocean, so it's probably near a beach.
sure, or a
The
lake.
photos taken of. So it's supposed to be kind of like a very bright and fun little diddle of this album, I guess. It doesn't mean that the lyrics have to be on that per se, but the actual sound of this. So when you get in stuff like that, just genuine 1 minute and 20 seconds of just improvising with her was it an ukulele or was it a
Yeah,
guitar?
ukulele.
It was ukulele. It was ukulele. Cool. Yeah, that's one of the funner moments on here. You're all right. There are comparisons you can do to Greenbelt Station on there. I mean, Greenbelt Station wasn't one of my favorites of Gummy Gang, admittedly. Anyway, but I don't think it's exactly the same thing. I think Greenbelt Station's a bit more of a properly produced track, while this is just, yeah, I mean, it's not a highlight of this for sure, but it's a fun little moment. So
See, that's the thing. I think the contrast of it versus everything else makes it a highlight for me. Like this album ends very strongly, where I think in the middle is probably where I start to lose it a little bit. Like I like thinking New Jersey, but around the picture frame to second best friend part is like the part where I'm like, take it or leave it. Like it's still good. I still like it, but like I wish there was a
yeah,
little
I
more to
mean,
something like second best friend.
I don't mind Picture Frame though.
Picture frame has some really good moments. It has a really good vibe, and I
Yeah.
think it captures what Ryland was going through at the time of writing all this.
Yeah, I mean, Second Best Friend is definitely I don't really care for taking it. I reckon I can probably leave it. Which is now gone for the four songs that I say are probably the best ones on here. It's Picture Frame, Kobayashi, Looking Out, and My PG County Summer, and then the rest I'm like, yeah, there are Origami Angel songs that exist.
Oh God, no! Few and far between's the best thing here.
I just disagree with that one, to be honest. I
Few and
feel
far
like
between is the
it's
fucking anthem, man.
I think it's just so similar. I know sound wise it's different, but I think it's just so similar to the air up here, and it just feels like them repeating themselves that I'm just like not really into it. I'm when this doesn't feel like a full fleshed out album to kind of have the ending that we've got on here. It just kind of feels nearly slapped on. I don't want to call it slapped on because it's obviously a pretty well produced track. I mean, so long as some on here, so it obviously wasn't made in 5 seconds.
Right.
But it just when the whole context of the album's gone, and when I feel like it's just basically an EP that's stretched out too long, it just doesn't hit. I feel like in a better context it would. I also think it's still not that great of an Origami Angel song. I feel it just it doesn't impress me like the stuff of Somewhere City did. And I know I'm comparing it to that album quite a bit, but just what it sounds like to me.
I just think few and far between is kind of the point of the whole thing. Where they answer the question that they're looking for, where are these brightest days? Where is the time of my youth and all that stuff, and where is the way that I used to look at things? And it's kind of like I'm gonna try and make those things happen. I'm gonna try and hold on to those things as long as I can and grin and bear it essentially while everything is kind of turning to shit. Like all these things are kind of ruining my day. All these kinds of things are getting in the way of how I view things, but like I'm gonna clench my fist and enjoy it for what it is before it's gone.
Now I'm going to ask Trix to say her hot takes about this album if she's got any hot takes.
My hot take is probably that it's my least favorite of the week.
I don't think it's a hot take.
Interesting.
And it's not that I hate it, it's just that the other two I like so much better.
I mean, I don't hate it
It's
either.
funny that this was technically my pick, and it's my least favorite, but
that was kind of
that's
just
not the first time.
Yeah, that was kind of a circumstantial thing, really.
yeah.
I mean, it's not a hateable album. I think it's just, as a full release, I feel like it's a better EP than it is a mini album.
You could have cut a few tracks and it would have been just as substantial, I feel.
I don't know. I like that they're trying to be not just an EP and not quite doing the Gami Gang follow. I like that they're trying to go for something that's in between, that is still releasing new music, but they're marketing it in a good way where it's not, the expectations are not like through the roof.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing I want to mention before we get off of this is that the sound palette that they're using is different. The one thing I would probably criticize Gen 3, Somewhere City, Gami Gang 4 is they use such a similar song palette that you can easily identify certain riffs and kind of see where things kind of like influence other things and where things kind of line up with each other. Like, oh, that sounds really similar. And that's kind of the thing we also had with Guitar Fight for Fooly Cooley. Their Soak album kind of had some of those similar riffs.
Mm-hmm.
And while these songs aren't like outside of Gami's wheelhouse, I feel like the sounds that they're using on Brightest Days don't have that same sonic palette. And I think
there
that's
definitely is a bit more instrumentation on this. I mean, we got the bit of the synth usage in this
oh yeah,
in this record as well. Definitely works on my PG County somewhere. Actually, that's the best riff on this whole album was when that synth kicks in.
So I'm happy that they had a external producer to at least encourage them to try other things.
Yeah, who was the producer for this record again?
Oh, Drew, is his name? Was it Paddle Latin? Something like that? Porta Latin. Have his profile pulled up. Worked with Save Face, Spanish love songs.
I still need to listen to Spanish love songs.
Yes, I do too.
Yeah, we'll get there.
Anyway,
I feel like that's the unofficial subtitle of this podcast. We'll get there.
Yeah.
In a long enough timeline, we'll get there. We'll get everywhere.
And we got nothing but time.
Favorites for me, few and far between. God damn, what a fucking song! Like that's probably the song of my summer right now. Also really like PG County Summer, Looking Out, and I guess I'll just stick with those three. My least favorite's probably Second Best Friend or The Brightest Days.
My favorites are Kobayashi Maru. Just making sure I didn't accidentally pronounce it wrong. And My PG County Summer. Least favorite is probably Thank You, New Jersey.
I'm going to completely agree with Ritz.
All right. Now, since we're doing The Way They Last, the obvious place to go to next is After the Night.
Yeah.
Parannoul time, baby. 46-minute post-rock track. Shortest post-rock track out there.
This is our millionth time covering Parannoul. Kind of joking, kind of not. We've done it, I think, 5 times now. And the last time we covered Home Is Where and Parannoul together was episode 99, so it's not even the first time we're doing those two together.
Yeah.
But the context is different now. And I really enjoy this context. Having this live album and a live video out there so you can just see what it's like.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing I heard apparently is that there was actually more to the concert, that like the first handful of tracks were just Parannoul doing a solo set, and then the band came in and we got what we got. And so, we got a lot of the hits. You got Beautiful World, Analog Sentimentalism, White Ceiling, also stuff like Polaris, Soft Bruise from the White Ceiling EP.
Yeah, that was a surprise inclusion, to be honest, was to put one that was in the B-sides release.
Hmm.
But
Especially when
goddamn,
it's your first official gig, I guess it was.
yeah.
But yeah, it's a pretty good set list.
It
And
is.
and like half of it is just Into the Endless Night. Like when all is said and
Into the
done.
endless night, into the endless night. Parannoul, this is the 100th time you said into the endless night. Can you end it? Into the endless night. The song's
So
ended now, boys. 26 minutes in. Ah, fuck.
I think it's very good that we covered Car Seat Headrest before this.
Yeah.
Because goddamn, is there not some fucking twin fantasy in all this?
Yeah, Twin Fantasy really paved the way for what we got now, didn't it?
Like, I think it's the end
Yeah.
of High to Death. I think that has that whole section of people like calling a hotline or something like that, and
Yeah, I think
it's
so.
like kind of inspiring words, or at least someone being very honest about their artwork and how they feel. And that was the vibe I got from like the 30 some minute mark of Into the Endless Night, where he started just like piping in people saying things, what they want to do with their lives, and kind of inspiring words.
I mean, we were talking
Hmm.
about this as well just before we started recording here, Dominic. We're talking about what it would have been like in there, which I said for this kind of for this album. I feel like it's one of those things that it's better to have been there than it is as kind of a live album. I think seeing the actual show and all the context around the show is great, but
Yeah,
just listening to this
live.
as an album, there's not much a difference in a lot of these songs compared to the studio versions on them, which would be great seeing the live actual live show for them. So you get to sing along with the artist. Basically, you're not going to be shocked. But then we talked about Into the Endless Night, and I said personally, this is something that would be a lot better to experience live because you can get completely just lost in the song because you without knowing that it's going to go for 46 minutes, you would kind of be like just kind of confused and stuff, but you get lost in the song. I mean, first time I saw King Gizzard perform, and the only time I saw him perform the Dripping Tap, that was the song like they hadn't released yet or anything like that. So as the song just kept going more and on and on and on, I'm kind of just like in the whole, what the fuck are they doing in such a cool way?
I could see
Hmm.
that.
Like, like I'm not expecting it to just keep going on and on, all the next steps and stuff like that. And that's how I feel about with the Into the Endless Night. Like, it would have been so much better live because I'm like, oh, cool, this song's now wrapping up. But then I can look at the time and go like, oh no, they're gonna do something else, and it kind of spoils that there's gonna be another change or another thing in there. And I would have
Yeah.
just preferred personally. I know I can just shut off the eyes and stuff like that, but it's like knowing prior how long it's going and just having a judgment of time kind of already settles that for me. I
Trix,
would
what
have
do you
just
think? Sorry.
would have preferred to be there live.
Trix, would you prefer to be there live, or would you prefer to just hear it and analyze it and process it?
I think the ideal is somewhere in between where you have like your phone in the other room and you're like doing something in the other room, like playing a game or reading a book, and you're just kind of listening and vibing and just not realizing that it's one song until you get up to take a piss and check your phone for messages.
When you
Okay.
go to bed and you wake up and the song's still on.
Yeah.
I mean, I can see kind of losing yourself in that 46-minute track, and I kind of like the idea of that. I also really like just being able to sit down and be in wonder of like what that must have felt like. Having
Yeah.
like if I was there, I would want there to be an album to listen to play it back. If this didn't exist, I would kind of be upset if I was there because I would want to relive that and just be like, did that really fucking happen?
Yeah, I could see that.
I also saw there were a lot of people in the comments, and to be honest, there's probably some people who are just comparing it to it because they're like, oh, Asian acts. But some people were comparing it to Fishman's live album,
I I saw those.
which is kind of on the actual opposite spectrum of it, because this is Parannoul's first live show. That was Fishman's last live show. But the way that they ended that live show as well was playing the entirety of Long Season. And I think there is a bit of a comparison to be doing, in which it's like they're ending off this show with basically playing one song that's an entire album. Even though Into the Endless Nights, like studio version, which we covered as well on this, we listened to it as well. It's just 9 minutes and a bit. It's like 9.5 maybe.
Yeah.
Just under.
And it's taken off his Bandcamp. It's like it's still on YouTube, but he took it off his Bandcamp, which is
so like, it's one of the weirdest songs in Parannoul's discography, because it was released, I think, it was released in 2021. It was released
around the time of Downfall of the Neon Youth, not a little bit beforehand.
Yeah. And then it just wasn't ever put into an album or even the B-sides EP or anything, so it just kind of existed.
Okay, don't quote me on this. I feel like I read this at the time, that there was like a little blurb about it on the Bandcamp page of it being a song that was worked on. It may have had a couple iterations that was never properly finished.
Mm.
And so, if that's the case, I guess I understand why he might have taken it off eventually, if he just wasn't happy with it. And so maybe this is like the way of him realizing that dream, or at least finding a version of it that he's happy with. Because I think also, when this was initially released as an album to listen to, I don't think the 46-minute version was there. I was looking at the.
I think it was.
Like I was looking at the. I was looking at the Reddit comments of when it was first posted, and there was people being like, "Oh, it was something like 6 minutes long or something like that." I'm like, "Oh, I wish they'd post the whole thing."
Yeah, no, actually, I do see that. So someone says, in one of the comments, I wish they'd released a 40+ minute version or something on there.
And then somewhere else, someone was saying that it accidentally got uploaded as a certain version. I don't know if it was just the YouTube version or what, but whether it was by accident or not, we got it at some point.
It is an interesting live album, though. I will say, when I give the kind of like whole how I felt listening to it in full as a live album, not really being there, just listen without the noise and stuff, in which a lot of the crowd noise is mixed out at certain points in this, which I feel is a bit underwhelming, to be honest. I feel like a part of live albums is the crowd as well. I mean, imagine listening to the Hockey Dad Drive-In gig without hearing the car honks.
Yeah.
It's just not the same.
But in another way, I can also appreciate it, because like he's trying to do like his own thing with this almost, and make it its own project, which I can kind of respect.
I definitely respect this live album. I feel, I think, especially just in Parannoul's context, this is a very
it's
important
like the opposite
release.
of Kiss Alive.
Yeah, it's like the band's actually alive.
Well, you guys know what Kiss Alive was, right?
Not in fully. I just like ripping on Kiss.
It was a studio album that they recorded as a live album.
Oh yeah, so that would be shit.
So I'm kind of implying that Parannoul is doing the inverse of that.
Recording a live album as a studio album?
Yes.
Interesting. I think the thing to think about too is when you listen to a band like My Chemical Romance, I think one of the striking things about them is how little their concerts end up sounding like the studio versions.
Mm-hmm.
Like the songs are there, but you can't tell me that some of those songs sound like anything other than they're trying to do it, but it's coming out like this. Whereas these songs sound similar enough to their studio versions that I'm actually very impressed.
Mm-hmm.
Like
I mean, they are, a lot of them are virtual sounds in which they were created with. So it's,
but this time it's live instrumentation.
Yeah, there is live instrumentation. There's also keyboard usage in there as well. So some of those sounds were just going to be probably 1-to-1. But yeah, no, that is a very impressive accomplishment. But it's not. It's not like there isn't some help in that.
Sure. But
Hmm.
I mean, for me, "Beautiful World" was my favorite song of 2021. That the live version even gives me a fraction of that dopamine hit when that fucking instrumental break comes in. It's great. Or even like the drums on something like "White Ceiling," which fucking go off and are mixed higher to the point where like you can just focus on the drums.
Oh yeah, no, White Ceiling is that type of song. I want to mosh around in South Korea too.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
like it like something about the studio version of "White Ceiling." It's like my least favorite version. I really like the demo version. I really like this version, but the original version doesn't super do it for me.
Studio version's still the best version, and I'll forever fight that.
Like God, if I just want to listen to "White Ceiling" over and over again in this iteration of it. There's just something about because it's like he's mixing his vocals higher now. He's not burying them completely because he's like clearly thinking he's a terrible singer and he's improved, right? He's gotten better.
Hmm.
So kind of bringing those up and kind of making him mixed better with everything else, I think also elevates some moments too that you're not going to get on those older albums right now. It shows a lot of work in progress, and I think it's a really big moment, like in this scene, in this whole thing. Again, this is us covering Asian Glow again in a sense, even though we're not covering an album directly by them.
Hmm.
So
Yeah,
Asian
no,
Glow
Yeah.
is
Asian Glow
the
was
bassist.
the basis on this. In
Oh
fact,
god,
I'm pretty sure like every single one of the members of the band was actually like got their own established project out.
yes. I gotta mention the
I don't think
fucking
they're as
trumpet
big as
too.
those two. Yeah, the trumpet that comes into the endless night where the person messaged on the YouTube and said, "Sorry, I sound like shit."
Yeah, that was very good. But I like it. It's a strange inclusion, but I do like my horns.
We
Oh
need
yeah,
a Domino
Broken Teeth
20.
is also on the guitar there as well, which is an
Yes.
album that I have listened to this year, but I've like listened to it like once.
Hmm.
So I haven't really, I can't really tell you what it sounds like. I need to give it another proper listen. But yeah, and then I haven't heard of Yo and Nine SUK, but I'm gonna just
I have
take a
not
look at them
either.
now.
I imagine they're either in the shoegaze emo scene or like adjacent enough that they all can meet each other.
Mm. Let's see, Yo Bandcamp. Uh, no, that's definitely not it because that looks like to be a club release.
Really stretching
Oh yeah.
their expertise there. Looking up 9SUK. I don't see anything.
The most popular song by Nine SUK is "Into the Endless Night Live." Yeah, I'd believe that.
Yeah.
They're potentially artists that haven't really, and maybe they're not as established as I thought they were. But
Sure.
there's still quite a bit of established artists appearing here.
I just am really happy that after the magic, which we really liked, that we had something else to really kind of latch onto like this because I was not expecting a live album, especially so quickly. You know,
Oh, thank fuck the trumpet person has an album out this year.
Infior,
Yeah, yeah. That's all that matters, baby.
Oh yeah.
Infior. Let's see. They are from
Yeah,
also South Korea. Hell yeah.
I feel like most of them would be because it would be a bit of a nuisance to get someone say from I can't even think of a country now. Argentina, we'll say.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
for this gig, so I feel like they'd have to all be from the South Korea scene. I mean, Parannoul's obviously hasn't been shy to collaborate with people in the South Korean scene. I mean, Zeladia, I believe is the way you pronounce the artist name,
Yeah.
does some of the backing vocals on After the Magic.
Oh, the Finn Fior album is listed as emo and shoegaze.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Woo! It's Delazia. Sorry, I got it the wrong fucking.
Deladia,
But
Delazia.
and Finn Fior was also on After the Magic, and same with Asian Glow, obviously as well.
Yeah. So like this is a posse. I kind of want them to do a band, but I'm sure they're just as happy just performing on each other's stuff. And we have a band version of that. It's great. So
Yeah.
I'm super happy with the results. I just I really like this. I think this is a fantastic moment. It is we don't really have a ton of live albums and like live albums that are like standing up there with the artist's like studio work. Like
This wasn't the artist we expected to get a live album from as well.
right, and I like Origami Angel broke Minecraft, but that's not one of their top releases. I don't think it helped
No.
catapult them, but like this is, I think, a pivotal moment.
I think when
Yeah.
I'm talking about this record, when I'm just talking about it as a straight up live album, that's where I go, yeah, it's fine, but it sounds a lot like the studio, except for White Ceiling has some differences, and then the Into the Endless Night is just a surreal kind of moment, which I'm somewhat into, somewhat not into, but it's interesting enough. When we talk about the context of this album, Parannoul, and its release, this is probably one of the most pivotal moments in Fifth Wave, because Parannoul was basically a shut-in before to see the next part of the dream, and now we've gotten some popularity even in their own country to get a gig like this and an album like this. It's a pretty important moment.
It is.
Maybe Parannoul might be happy to hear this. I don't know, but one of my listens of Through the Endless Night, because I listened to it a good 5 or 6 times, I was like snoozing through it, just kind of was really fucking tired, and so it was just kind of like there in my like various states of being like asleep and awake, and that was such a just a surreal experience to kind of like know when the shifts were coming, but not really be able to do anything else than that. Like, oh yeah, there's the guitar. Oh, there's the trumpet. But I'm like still kind of asleep. It was a fucking surreal experience. I really dug that.
I'm not really going to give a favorite or a least favorite on this album. I think it's one I'm going to exclude from all that.
I think I will, because I'm not a coward.
But that's fair.
But I'm gonna have to give it to let me just pull up the track list. I'm horrible at remembering these off the top of my head. One sec.
I'll go in the meantime if you'd like.
Go for it.
Favorites are White Ceiling and Beautiful World and Into the Endless Night. Least favorites, I don't know, probably something like Imagination or Soft Brews. I don't know. Hard to really say a least favorite.
My favorites are Analog Sentimentalism, because when I was listening to that, I only really listened to this album once. Home is Where kind of absorbed all of my listening this week. And but as I was listening to Analog Sentimentalism, I just had like I had a really good day with good things happening, and I felt like things were turning around. And the song really just kind of highlighted it and made me realize that yeah, I'm gonna get through this. And then I liked Into the Endless Night because I'm just a sucker for long songs, and it was cool to have my eyes open to something that wasn't like doom metal or the Microphones in 2020.
Yeah, that's also important too. This is longer than the Microphones in 2020, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't feel like
Microphones in 2020, Parannoul in 2023.
it doesn't
yeah.
feel like it's longer, but it is.
Yeah.
Now,
Anyway.
before we get into the next album, Dominic, I'm going to ask for a time check. How long is this recording going for so far?
We have crossed the 51-minute mark in the raw recording.
Are you ready to probably double that on this alone?
Hell yes.
I mean, that's what we're here for, aren't we?
So, I think it should come to absolutely no surprise that what is the biggest album of this week for all of us to talk about is the new Home is Where album. When we got into this whole fifth wave, and it's probably a really good way that we've just done it here because we're literally doing it again. We did Parannoul to Home is Where 2 weeks in a row, and now we're doing it album to album here. So this is probably the most unintentional great callback that we've ever done.
No, I engineered it this way. This has been my plan all along.
This is his master plan, motherfucker.
Could have kept the lie, but continue on to that. I think we can fairly say that those 2 weeks basically spiraled into us becoming the most autistic nerds about fifth wave emo as we possibly could. To the
Pretty
point
much.
in which we probably know a little bit too much about this genre, probably have talked about it a little too much.
I've told customers about the Whaler. I'm not even gonna lie.
Yeah, I've told Pete to listen to this many times, and He laughed immediately when he saw the track listing of Every Day Feels Like 9/11 and then 9/12.
And then you listen to it and you're like, oh fuck.
I don't know if he's listened to it yet. I'm gonna fucking bug him again after this
So
this episode.
before
I'm
we
not
get
done
too
with
far,
this opening speech. But
I
yes.
want to ask a question before we get too far. In one of the recordings, or not one of the recordings, one of the interviews I had read, I was turned on to the idea that it starts mid loop. I am curious if you listen to it from what is theoretically the beginning of the album to the end.
You mean from the end of the last song starting
No.
there?
And one of the track breakdowns that Brandon was doing, she said that like the actual beginning of the album is Every Day Feels Like 9/11.
Ah, no, I
That's
have
the
not
first
listened.
song, theoretically.
I would have put it as Daytona 500.
Somewhat.
I think Every Day Feels Like 9/11 gives the vibe of what's going on. It's like if it was meant to be a focused concept album, that's what it would be, because that's kind of the idea, is that what if 9/11 just kept happening as we got older? That's kind of the life we live.
Things.
I've got to ask, just to continue on this monologue, because
Go.
I swear at the very end of it, I'm going to say a fucking sentence of this that will make Trix probably laugh the loudest she has ever laughed.
I'm outside. I'm ready.
So, since we have covered Homer's Wear, we have covered a lot of Fifth Wave, but we have specifically also covered a lot of artists that Homer's Wear has either sunk as influences in the scene and all that. We've covered a lot of just Homer's Wear's discography as well. In fact, I'm pretty sure we've covered every single part of Homer's Wear discography. We've covered the debut EP. I think, Dominic, you chose that yourself.
Yes.
We picked a Dissection Lesson, which I think might have been picked at the same time, if I'm correct.
No. That was
might have been
the next year. That was when we did the Parannoul B-sides.
Yeah, thank you. It was picked at a very similar time. Obviously, I Became Birds was the first one that we ever covered out of all this, because I fell in love with it after having discovered it. And then we covered the tribute compilation that came out earlier.
We have not covered their Audio Tree Live.
Haven't covered the Audio Tree Live. That's the only one that we haven't covered, but basically every song that's on there we have covered. Since having discovered them, you two also went to see him live when they opened for Glass Beach, when Your Arms Are Like a Coon also opened for them. This is the part now in which I'm going to say the stuff that sounds irrelevant for about 5 seconds before you remember, okay, now I see where you're going with this. Throughout over this past couple fucking years, Trix has constantly kept shoving Shaky Graves down my goddamn throat.
Yes.
I have listened to a lot of country. I have listened to way much more country than I would have liked to have ever listened to in my life.
I am
and
grinning
now,
ear to ear.
In June 16, 2023, Homer's Wear has made me love country.
Yes.
They have put out probably the fucking freshest country album I have ever heard in my fucking life. It's emo album as well. This is emo country, basically. It is the freshest that both emo and country has sounded.
Oh,
and I will fucking stick to my guns on this for a while. And if country had fucking sounded like this 10 years ago, I would have moved to America and done some racist shit.
At that, I am now cracking my hard Mountain Dew.
Because I would have been on board for it all, baby. Morgan Wallen, you want to go and call your friends the N-word? I would have been there with you.
What the fuck?
Oh, God.
That's how racist in country I would have been. Obviously, no, would not have done that. I'm just calling out how fucking racist country artists are.
Yeah.
But yes, this is the best country album I've probably heard in my life. I know there's going to be a lot of Johnny Cash fans out there who are going to go like, oh, but this is true country. Yeah, I'm sure it is. I don't care.
And as we know, true emo comes in the Washington, D.C. era. The D.C. area.
That has been my monologue.
Queer. If it's not queer, then it's just sparkling fourth wave emo.
Do not take this as an excuse to keep picking country, unless Shaky Graves starts bringing out, I don't know, 5 guitars, some fuzz pedals, and a lot of angst.
A Shaky Graves Home is Where collaboration would be fantastic.
Oh, That would I
Fuck
would
Trixie
nuts.
Mattel. Let's go for a fucking Home is Where Shaky Graves.
We have to try and get this to happen somehow. We gotta this will be like our master plan we're orchestrating behind the
Yeah.
scenes.
Brandon, you ever heard of Shaky Graves?
I have a lot that I want to say about this album,
So
but if I start going into it, I probably won't stop. So someone please take over.
I need to be upfront with you both.
Yeah.
A week is not enough here for me.
It's not, but it's
I
something.
I have not immediately fallen in love with the same way you two have, but I am like dissecting it and like digesting it as like a fucking fine 10-course meal, if that makes sense.
I've been trying to get my father to listen to this.
The first thing that I've had to do whilst listening to this album is basically remove all comparisons that I want to do to I Became Birds except to the Old Country. Because
Same
we
here.
didn't get we actually do have I haven't completely thrown out of all of them. There are some very similar structures that I can see that they've
Yes.
continued on with and stuff on I Became Birds. But there's also some stuff that's off it feels more like natural evolutions as well
Oh,
from
yes.
dissection lessons and stuff like that as well. But if I actually had to say a song from I Became Birds that they've evolved from, it is The Old Country.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
feel like this could be the next set of tracks after the Old Country if there was a track list made. Like it would just flow naturally.
Yeah.
But like the thing the thing I'm trying to say with all this is that like I need time to digest this and consider it like to be on the level that you both do, because I think it's a great album. I think it's going to be very pivotal and important to the scene.
I mean, one of the big things to mention as well is that this is, I'm pretty sure, as I'm saying these words, number 7 on Rate Your Music for 2023.
Hell
That
yeah.
is just massive for Home as Well. If I check, yep, it is number 7. The 6 albums that are beating it are Jessie Ware's That Feels Good, the new King Gizzard album, which I can't say in full because it would take up half this episode, Noah, which I don't know who Noah is, admittedly, Noah Forever, Billy Woods and Kenny Segal's Maps, Swans the Beggar, because people still think Swans are good. I've never been big into Swans, but from what I hear, they are good. I just never liked them. And then number 1, which I actually plan to cover at some point this year, is JPEG Mafia and Danny Brown's Scaring the Hose. Those are 6 pretty big albums, and
Hell yeah, they're up there with that.
I think I don't know too much about Noah, admittedly, but yeah, after all that, it's Home as Well. This is big. They're getting quite a bit of critical acclaim for this record.
It was like looking at Bandcamp.
Right.
Like Bandcamp the week that they came out. Home is Where was like number like on the 4th page of the Bandcamp best selling. Like if you can fucking like press the arrows on the homepage and it shows you like 4 to 6 albums at a time.
Mm-hmm.
Like you went to the 4th page, you saw Home is Where. You went to like the 12th page, and that was where the Brightest Days was. Like Home is Where is doing well. Like this,
Yes.
the Wailer is having a moment,
and it just fucking deserves it. I mean, they always talked about prior with this their folk influence, obviously with Bob Dylan being
yes,
Brandon McDonald's one of their favorite artists. And another big one that they talked about in previous releases that they were a fan of, and I Became Birds Final literally says it on the sticker, is Neutral Milk Hotel.
oh, of course.
This is Neutral Milk Hotel and emo.
It is.
This is kind of not necessarily their fucking In the Airplane Over the Sea, but it could be their equivalent.
I mean, we've now also just found out that the musical saw is an emo instrument again. Obviously, it was used on Sewn Together.
Yes.
From the membrane of the Great Sea Cucumber. It is used to much greater effect.
Yes.
On this album. Holy shit! The breakdown at the end of Skin Meadow, where they basically just do the musical saw solo.
Yes.
We saw that live.
That would have been hectic to see live.
And with no context, and also just being like, are they saying Skin Metal or Skin Meadow?
Yeah, and we had a kind of wager going about that for a year and a half.
So who won? Who was the one who said Skin Meadow?
Trix.
I was.
Trix, you're based.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah.
Though Skin Metal does sound fucking raw, I wonder what Skin Metal would be.
I mean, I posted to. I mean, we're just going into the tracks now, I guess. I posted to you two. I went straight fucking full into my own personal in-depth dive of what the fuck Skin Meadow was, because that's what the lyrics are like on this album. They're as good as they were on I Became Birds. They're so fucking just out there, and it's ambiguous in the correct ways. It's not people saying some absolute bullshit to sound cool. It is genuinely imaginative, but also meaning something.
Yeah.
It's incredibly gruesome, and God, the thing I think that's preventing me from like really fully embracing it is it's very complex, and like you have to think a lot about it, I think, to really get every layer of it. But it really evokes that post 9/11 childhood in me, where everything is just a bit uneasy and everything is just a bit uncomfortable, and that makes it a little harder for me to listen to sometimes, because I'm just kind of like, oh God, I feel where this album's coming from so much.
I'm just saying right now though. I mean, the live album is a bit hard to really properly say on it because I like the studio tracks. But there is no fucking track this week on the other albums that goes as hard as Skin Meadow does.
No.
It just the second it fucking hits in, that riff comes in, it's you just get ready for what is probably one of the best openings to an emo album. It's this isn't even I'm basically saying that Homelessware is one of my favorite artists of all time. At this point, their discography has impressed me that much with how
I
little
think
they
I'm gonna
have.
agree with you.
They're
Like,
definitely up there for me. I don't know about like top of all time, but they're definitely like top 15, top 10 maybe.
There are
Top
very
10.
little artists that have impressed me so much with such little discography since probably the Middle East.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And Middle East is up there with when it comes into those whole discographies or favorite artists and stuff. Yeah, they're fucking up there. They absolutely incredible with how little they had out here. And
Mhm.
before Fifth Wave, like I liked fourth wave stuff, I like third wave stuff, I like second wave stuff. I'm not gonna pretend like I didn't like any emo before then. But I've never attached myself to a wave as much as I have fifth wave.
Sure.
Nor have I probably done to a genre. And I feel like Home is Where is one of the big reasons why. I feel like despite like all of this as well, they're still probably the most unique sounding band
Yes.
in fifth wave.
Yeah.
They're not even that inaccessible. They aren't doing this whole kind of fucking deconstruction that so many other artists are doing. And it's not to obviously not to criticize the deconstructions because a lot of them are doing it quite well. But those are a lot more experimental sounding. This is not that experimental in the sense of what the fuck am I listening to, or in that case of the instrumentation and stuff. It is actually still quite grounded in some pretty normal regular sounds and stuff, but the way that all of it is just added together, or the sum of all its parts, puts out into one of the most unique listenings
But I mean, we're also
to just any sound. To be honest,
Yeah.
there's
I agree.
not much artist doing country emo. We have old country. I mean, you have stuff like that have been emo tinged country and stuff like that. But I wouldn't
I've
call them the
compared,
country emo that I would call Home is Where at the moment.
I compared Daytona to 500 to a track off of Lousy with Sylvia Briar.
Yes, that's where I was going next. Of we are uniquely poised in a way by listening to stuff like a Montreal Neutral Milk Hotel, Shaky Graves a lot, where we're not fully in depth in what country is, but we have enough of a grasp and we have enough of like understanding of like alt influences and what other musicians can be inspired by in those scenes, that I think we can kind of understand sonically, musically, where this stuff is coming from quite well.
Oh yeah.
And going back onto to Skin Meadow, we have when you have all these. I'm using my favorite word on contrast, and I'm doing it on the lyrics. So that's how fucking good it is.
Yeah.
You have a lot of these lyrics and stuff that are very kind of like imagine, or like visual, kind of like say they're supposed to put out this whole kind of like
Yes.
you're supposed to think of what they're saying and stuff like that. That when the more direct lyrics come in, they hit pretty fucking hard. So when you have like the little one verse is stitch the sky to treetops, I talk my stomach in knots. That itself is just this kind of whole very metaphorical line. And then immediately after it's there's no room on the roadside for any more memorials. Which is just straight up as direct as it gets.
Yes.
Yes.
The whole song is that. Like I was gonna point to the first verse, but you got to the second one.
I mean, the first verse isn't as with that line, but it is still kind of direct. I mean, I'm spilling my guts is a bit more known as a metaphor,
Sure.
but she's not literally committing seppuku.
No, but it's the contrast of
But
like the pretty imagery, the grotesque imagery versus an action, a thing that is being done.
mm.
Yeah.
Um,
And then obviously there's like the whole screaming of the whole band going skin, meadow, 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 skin, meadow. It's fucking great.
Yeah.
Like
really
it
want to
just,
know what skin metal is.
I is, I, it took me a while, I feel like after my analysis, I'm pretty sure the skin meadow is supposed to be referencing like just deaths.
That's and
It's
I
an
think
actual,
like the pile up of bodies on like the roads and like kind of
yeah,
going off of the imagery we're seeing here. I'm also asking what skin metal is.
yeah, skin meadow. I know what you're talking about, but I'm just talking about
It's
I,
the
the actual title.
T-1000 from Terminator.
fair enough.
Yeah. Yeah, imagine instead of putting a political album to home, is where I just watched Terminator instead. And then immediately after this pretty intense song that opens this out with again the kind of just I'm still in awe of the fucking musical saw breakdown, but we have to move past it a little bit here and going
Yeah.
straight into Lily Pad Pupils, which sounds as fucking different as it can, and that's when it really starts to get into the country sound as well. It has a kind of like very lazy type of sound in a good way. It doesn't sound like slacker, but it's a very soft, chilling. Like I literally, whilst I did my walk this morning, I put this album on again. It's probably like the 15th time that I put this album on in a week. I've been absolutely
Felt.
blasting the shit out of it. I'm sure Trix, you're probably
Felt.
up to 50.
Probably. I've lost track.
And going more just into it, it's a very interesting song. Like we had the build up on Sewn Together from I Became Birds, but this doesn't do that same kind of build up. We don't have that same long breakdown, but we do build up to a breakdown, which it's just literally 3 words repeated: earn your earn. Absolutely scream the shit out of. Whilst this whole kind of like the rest of the song has this very weird storytelling or imagery, and it goes back into that whole grotesque lyricism that Dominic was on about in there as well. I mean, the last verse before the breakdown literally just talks about killing whales.
Yeah.
It's a really dark song that really kind of like contrasts to the instrumentation that is happening. It's just very chill, very calming until that breakdown, which I'm pretty sure "earn your earn" is probably trying to mean um like do something with your with your life before you die, but it's also during this whole like if I had to describe what this album's kind of message is, it's pretty dark, to be honest. It's damned if you do, damned if you don't. Because there's a lot of just what the imagery and what the lyricism is kind of telling me. It's like you kind of have to like there's a lot of stuff that talks about in here that's it's very political, obviously. I mean, Homosware has talked many times about the crazy laws that are affecting their hometown of Florida, how they could literally get arrested just for going to the bathroom.
Yes. Or
Very
at this point, just existing in public.
uh basically from what I hear from a lot of conservative stuff in America, basically it could just be killed for existing.
Yeah.
It's not exactly a fun time to
Have you heard of the
be a
trans
minority
law?
ever. Which one?
Trans panic defense.
I'm gonna have to ask you to explain it.
It is a legal defense in most of the states, where if you kill a trans woman, you can use basically or trans guy, you can use the expense. I didn't know they were trans. It scared the shit out of me. I felt threatened. I killed them.
It's not kind of like the stand your ground laws where it's just absolute bullshit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, fair enough on that. And it's what I get. It's like this whole kind of like you have to fight for your life, but by fighting for your life is what even gets you more attacks than you. So that's what I feel like I'm getting from this whole earn your own kind of lines that are happening in here.
Yeah.
Like the lyrics that are on Lily Pad Pupils, again, evoke that very specific, very visceral imagery of God. The amount of fucking pictures I have of like just being in the pools and having fucking fingers in pictures that I fucking took as a child, and kind of contrasting that kind of idyllic moment of summer with the half neutral milk hotel line of like pulling weeds out of your spine,
Mm.
and like having that,
Yeah.
and then going into like the hangman story of the bringing the flowers, feeding the first communion, and the bread returning to flesh, and like insinuating cannibalism basically.
Mm.
Like
Yeah.
there, it for me it settles me into a very safe space, and then very much violates it in a way that is very interesting and unique for an album like this.
And do not underestimate how hard it is to make people feel uncomfortable in a good way.
Yeah.
Like I could make anybody feel uncomfortable listening to this podcast by just I mean our Trix will probably do it by recounting her last shit, to be honest.
I will refrain.
But yeah, you could tell that's not uncomfortable in a good way. That's an uncomfortable in a please stop way.
Yeah.
Feeling uncomfortable in the way that this album brings in such a kind of important way is it's just incredible lyricism.
And I think the important difference from the easy comparison of In the Aeroplane Over the Sea is that In the Aeroplane Over the Sea, despite being on Anne Frank in World War II, is a romanticized kind of thing. It sounds very warm. It sounds very legitimately happy, and you kind of feel for the things that Jeff Mangum is feeling and expressing.
Yeah.
I also feel
That's
to say in a way of how to compare it to though, not every song like all the songs on In the Airplane Over the Sea aren't about just like and they'll bring in Anne Frank and World War II imagery, but they're not specifically about it. I mean, O Comely, which has a lot of that imagery happens in there, is not primarily about Anne Frank. It's about infidelity.
my point, though, is
Mhm.
that none of that kind of warm, happy, nostalgic feeling is exactly here. There's nostalgia for me, but it's like the nostalgia that I wanted to forget about. It's like the
Yeah, I
nostalgia and the fear that fucking grips my mind when I fucking explore the like weird side of TikTok.
and that's
Yeah.
what the comparison I'm bringing onto here, because the big theme that this album brings on is another historical event. It's 9/11. 9/11
Yeah,
is a pretty big historical event because a lot changed in the public perception's eye, especially in America. Um, I mean, I'll never forget those amount of people who would talk about how unionized America was afterwards, which was really something you could relate to if you're a white American.
Yeah.
Not so
unionized in the
much if,
wrong way.
not so much, yeah, not so much if you're a minority.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
and that's what this album's kind of theme is. It's putting into that whole kind of fear and trauma and everything everyone got from 9/11, but it's also comparing to like how it's really in this nothing's changed. There is still a lot of fear and trauma that we're experiencing today. I mean, it's very much easy for a lot of people who don't have these issues to just go and say like, "Oh yeah, 9/11 was the most scared I've been," but there are people who are facing basically genocide. And it's not just in America; it's around the world. It's not just transgendered. I mean, you can obviously talk about the Ukraine-Russia situation, which, I mean, that one's culminating in a terrible Russian mercenary group killing the even worse Russian government. So,
They
Yeah.
they they kind of stood down though, it seems like,
mm,
but that's neither here nor there right now.
yeah, there's just a lot that happens, and it's just a easy. It's very much easy to just say it's like, oh, 9/11 was the worst, but when this whole theme is like every day feels like 9/11, especially when I think it's in the we've seen in a lot of these deep dives that some journalists have done into this record and stuff as well, talking about how basically most of the members of this band would have been very young when 9/11 happened.
Like me,
I would have,
yes.
yeah, I would have been very young as well and stuff like that. We
I
don't
was
really know a pre 9/11 world.
yeah, 9/11 is very much baked into my early memories. Like I was like 5, right? 5 or 6. I was
Yeah.
6.
Mm,
So like some preconception of what happened before, but like my prime upbringing at that time was the immediate like aftermath, right?
mm.
Where like everything felt awful and bad, and things were just getting worse, and war was on our minds and all that shit. Everything was just uneasy.
Now, moving on to the next song as well, and it brings up one of the other themes that this album has, which is kind of faking normalcy. I think is how they described it as. It's the song "Yes, Yes, 1,000 Times Yes." This was the lead single into this record. It is probably the most different sounding song to Home Is Where's discography, because randomly at the start of this whole cycle, we got a dance punk track.
Yeah.
It's not the thing I expected Home Is Where to do, but they just nailed it. I fucking love those verses, and then we go into the breakdown, second part of the song, I'll call it, into there as well, which goes into that classic Home Is Where sound, and then back into the dance punk. It's one of the honestly oddest tracks they probably could have picked for a single. I think it's the right choice, to be honest. I think it's a really good summarization of what this album is. It very much is a big kind of, it's this whole visual imagery of this wedding happening as a song. That's basically all the lyrics are. And maybe I've read a little wrong into this, but I'm pretty sure this is supposed to be a beard wedding.
A what wedding?
A beard wedding.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Or at least, if not a beard wedding, then a wedding built solely on societal expectation.
Like a business marriage.
Yeah.
Or I don't even think, like, from what the people do in the end of the song, though, it doesn't even seem like a business marriage. It just seems to, like, well, we did that. Now what? Like, they drove home in separate cars, right? Like, there's no plan. It's like, okay, we're just standing here, I guess.
So to also continue on with the Neutral Milk Hotel comparisons, we got the semen word.
Yep.
Yes.
Except instead of semen staining the mountaintops, it's created a wedding dress.
Yep. Now who's going to be the first of the three of us to play this at our wedding?
Probably Ritz.
No, actually, I like my partner. I feel like if I play the song at a wedding, she'll leave me at the altar.
It can be at the reception.
Ash, can I play a dance punk emo song at our reception? No, she didn't even let me finish that sentence before she said no.
Play it in the bathroom.
Yeah, I'll sneak in the old country. We'll get one Home Is Where song.
I'll probably be the first one.
It's my wedding day too, sweetie. I get to pick out the music.
I could probably convince somebody to play this at my wedding.
I don't even know. I'm getting married, so
don't worry. Your rights for that will only go and
they'll be revoked by 2032. Yeah. I'm sure.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Bad day to be a minority. Every day.
Every day feels like 9/11.
It fucking does.
Except on 9/12 when everyone went back to work.
There's some lines in here in which, like, I mean, this album is right for me to just overthink every line. So if I've gotten some of these a little bit more, then now they're supposed to be direct, then whatever. But I'm pretty sure that Redonna regalia of useless genitalia, which is probably one of the most Home Is Where lines on this album, you're supposed to be referring. It's why I consider this to be a kind of like a beard relationship that they're describing in this one. It's because I think the whole useless genitalia is supposed to be more like a whole dead bedroom type of situation. So it's like it's two people there who don't want to be with each other in that way.
Sure. And I mean, you could also go more literally too of like, what is a tie but a flaccid dick?
Yeah.
I mean, admittedly, it took me a little too long to realize in assisted harakiri that catheters overgrown is referring to a penis.
Fair enough.
Yeah, Trix just found that out as well now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now that you know it, you're like, oh shit, of course.
But one time I'm not thinking about dicks.
Yeah, fuck.
Yeah, I mean, you could definitely go to each line to line. It's like, okay, well, is the minister smiling because he approves? Is he smiling just because he's happy? Is he smiling because, in his sinister way, he's informing societal norms on this couple? You know? And, like, what's the whole line with squishing mosquitoes about? Is that just a thing that people just do without even thinking about it? That, oh, they're doing that instead of doing anything meaningful with their marriage.
And it's Florida.
Yeah. I feel like Florida's just full of them.
Florida is just an armpit and you squish mosquitoes.
Fair enough. But that whole Minister Smile verse in it, that's the other part. I mean, that's a direct. Those are the kind of direct lyricism that Homer's do boast out about. But you can't tell me you listen to that verse and you don't just immediately get kind of like a movie scene going into your head.
Oh yeah,
Oh,
this is
you
a
get,
very
like,
visual
kind of-
album.
Yeah.
I'm trying to sick my English teacher father on this.
Like, do you not just get when the whole verse goes? Do you not just get the imagery of like a close up of like a not obviously comically creepy, but like a somewhat looks normal, but you can kind of tell there's something off about them priest just kind of smiling, kind of like very almost kind of like it's a fake smile in themselves. It's very creepily, not
Like
quite full
Ellen
mouth open,
DeGeneres.
but yeah, like that. Yeah.
You know who I'd love to make a music video for Homeless Wear?
Who
I would love if Wes Anderson made a video.
I knew you were going to say that. But I totally agree.
I think a song like Yes, Yes, 1,000 Times Yes, I think Wes Anderson would be perfect for something like that. I don't think Wes
God,
Anderson would
yes.
ever go that hard politically.
Yes.
Now, I need to actually go back a song here because I've forgotten to ask Trix a very important question here.
Yes.
Yeah, Trix, did you have an orgasm when the bass came in on Lily Pad Pupils?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, the holy fuck.
I had such a hard orgasm that the solitaire app I'm using right now just sent me a Bible ad. Not even a joke.
That's funny. That's great. Now, you remember when I asked for a time check, Dominic? I'm pretty sure we've been talking about this, and we're only 3 songs into 10. And I think
Yeah,
we've been talking
we're
about
over half an hour past our last time check.
this.
I am
Let's keep going, babe.
100% going.
I am ready to go as long as we want to go.
Yeah, this is
Me too.
Like, okay,
Wailing
wailing
for
for
sport.
sport.
wailing for sport.
And
I can
all-knowing
do
God doesn't
everything
know what it's
God-
like.
Feel
I
anything,
can do
feel
everything
nothing at
God
all.
can't. God damn. It's this is probably the simplest song that we got lyrically out of all of it, and it's very simple.
Such a good
instrumentally
hook.
as well. Yeah.
It is.
Past the sky, there's more sky.
Past the sky,
Past
there is more sky.
There's more sky.
I think it's what I like about this band as well, is that they really know that you can do quite a lot with quite a small amount.
Oh yeah.
I think there's always a misconception that bigger is better. I think this band does bigger and smaller, and I think they're doing both really well.
I mean, Origami Angel is another good example.
We've done the Origami Angel, Dominic. This is home is where time.
I know. I'm just saying, Origami
I'm
Angel.
fucking with you. I'm fucking with you.
They do verse, chorus, bridge, chorus, end half the time. Like they for the sound that they have very little going on in terms of like beyond the first verse sometimes. So I can definitely relate, at least for what a song like this is doing versus like what a song by Origami Angel can do, especially the shorter ones. But this is like a whole 3-minute 19-second track that they managed to not even really have verses or anything else. It's just lyrics.
Well, I want to point that out for a little bit as well. Like, this album gets pretty catchy for what it is. There is like only one song on here in which I could say it kind of has a chorus. Like that would be Daytona 500.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's like the only song. That's the only song that really has a chorus, and even then, the 2 choruses are pretty different lyrically.
Yeah.
I mean, Every Day Feels Like 9/11 being repeated a couple times is almost a chorus, but yeah.
Yeah, but it's a moment. It's not repeated throughout the song. It's repeated in the same part.
It's true.
Mm-hmm.
So this isn't like an album about choruses as well. It's very much not relying on like everybody going like, oh yeah, it's this moment coming back again, or it's this moment coming back again, or like. And I'm not criticizing that on albums obviously because choruses can work pretty well. I mean, the fifth wave emo scene, I can't tell you too many bands that do the whole choruses. I mean, I know Pool Kids definitely have,
but it's not a major concern if they don't want it to be.
Yeah, no. But I'm more just talking about when we're talking about the whole lyrically on here. There's no verses, no that. There's just a lot of it that's on this album where it's like that. It's not really chorus verse. It's more just like paragraph, paragraph, paragraph. It's almost like poetry.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Weird. Lyrics are almost like poetry.
weird.
I'm all meant like we're listening to it in like the kind of same vein as a poem than it is a song.
I wonder if that's a Bob Dylan thing.
I don't know. I'm not too
Potentially, I'm
familiar
not.
with Bob Dylan.
Yeah, I'm going to agree. I'm not the biggest Bob Dylan expert as well,
I have a friend who's an indie
but
musician that I've not talked to in a while. He's a very big Bob Dylan fan. Yeah, we'll have to cover him at some point.
I definitely do see some of that from the Bob Dylan songs that I do know.
Mhm.
So yeah, I mean, Wailing for Sport also kind of continues with the title as well. With this whole, there was a lot of themes that this album goes into, but it doesn't. It's weird. Like it feels like it's doing a lot, but it doesn't feel like it's a jack of all trades, master of none. It's doing every one of its themes correctly. It's fucking impressive.
Yeah.
And the other weird kind of, and this one's not so much done in the whole kind of theme that like 9/11 is done in, or the whole looping theme is done in. Well, it's more just the kind of imagery theme that they have going on in this as well. It's just wailing.
Yes.
It's one of the
Yeah.
more grotesque things that they're talking about. I think it's. I mean, they've always been quite grotesque, talking about a lot of their films and stuff like that as well. But in kind of in a weird way. I mean, assisted harakiri is a pretty grotesque name for a song about that is basically just a whole transgender celebration.
Yeah.
Now, the nice thing is that they talk about whaling, but they don't relate it to Moby Dick.
No, we don't have a Moby Dick record here, do we?
No,
No.
it's not Leviathan.
Yeah, sorry,
It's
Mastodon.
refreshing.
No, it's. I don't. I feel like there's a bit more going into the whale, the kind of whole subject into here that I could probably talk about. But I feel like the whale is probably most likely going to be a metaphor for kind of us in this case, or like someone or something. It has to be some metaphor. That's lost to me at the moment, but I'll get there because I'm going to listen to
on
this
the
album
on the
constantly.
AMA, she specified that whaling was the topic because whales are these beautiful creatures that just exist, and humans are evil and go specifically to hunt these peaceful creatures.
Yeah, someone also asked her if she knew that whales were closer to the dolphin family.
And she
That
did
was a
not.
cute little,
And the response
that was
was,
a
I
cute
didn't even
little
realize that
question.
whales were real, I believe.
Such a great comment.
Yeah.
Yeah, whales exist. Yeah, we haven't killed them all yet.
Yet.
There are more whales
Yeah.
than buffalo.
Yeah.
There you go. That's what the whale theme is. That's a bit more.
Well, I mean, Buffalo, New York. It's basically the Midwest.
Imagine this was just called Buffalo Hunt.
Would have been
Yeah.
the better one.
Would have been the better one.
And then after this very calming track that we get from Wailing for Sport, we go straight back into the whiplash, and it's beautiful whiplash with
God,
Every
yeah.
Day Feels Like 9/11. Feed yourself your own stomach again and again. Couldn't keep it down, couldn't stomach it.
Yeah.
Just
God.
that's as grotesque as they
Fucking
probably
God.
get on this, and it's just keep it coming. Keep it coming. That's that shit right there. Holy fuck.
Now,
Good
can
shit,
you not
good
keep it
shit.
down because you're feeding yourself your own stomach, and you not keep it down because it's your stomach that you're eating, so there's no stomach to stomach it.
Yeah, you can't stomach it if you got no stomach because you're feeding yourself in your own stomach. It goes into this whole. That's what I'm talking about with this damned if you do, damned you don't whole loop shit kind of thing that goes in.
Yeah.
This sounds like a counterfeit reality, a perfect copy of a forgery.
After all these years, Dominic still looks a lot like himself.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
And you know, Ritz, you're Euro tapeworm.
yeah. God's in heaven where he's safe from us. Just you know what? I'm gonna do the comparison to the Spy. Yeah, the Spy Kids line.
Is that a reference to Spy Kids too?
Yeah, do you reckon God stays in heavens because he's fear of what he's created?
It could be.
Don't worry, I got some more.
9/11. Oh my God.
What?
Steve Buscemi, the
Steve
firefighter.
Buscemi was a firefighter on 9/11.
Ooh, the themes just run deeper.
Fuck! I just put that together.
I mean,
We got so much comparisons and themes and connections to do in this. Holy fuck!
it took me a while to put together the whole Chris Farley Dale Earnhardt connection.
I mean, we'll get to that part as we get onto here. But
Oh,
yeah, there was a. I mean, we can also compare the whole the imagery of the tapeworm to System of a Down's and Needles, which
Yes.
that has the whole thing of the pull the tapeworm out of the arse, which is the whole idea that the tapeworm is controlling you or taking you over it, and that whole your own tapeworm thing I think falls into a very similar vein into that, where it's this whole idea of like you're in control of yourself.
Instead of pulling it out of your ass, you're feeding yourself your own stomach.
Yeah, and that whole God's in heaven where he's safe from us, I think, goes into this whole idea that, especially, I mean, there's a lot of religious imagery, especially to Christianity, that's on this, and there's a whole idea that God plans out your whole life for you.
Yeah.
So I think it's this kind of whole like, especially having these kind of things, it's almost calling God a tapeworm, to be honest.
And you know when Toxicity came out?
I would have come out around 9/11, yes.
September 4th, 2001.
Yep.
Jesus Christ. The conspiracy goes deeper.
Yeah, this. At some point we got to figure at least one of these was intentional. And I'm not convinced. I'm not convinced any of. I'm not convinced any of these are unintentional.
I am fully with the idea that Daytona 500 is an of Montreal appreciation track of some degree.
Yeah.
There yet, technically. So we'll get there.
I mean, we can kind of just move on to Daytona 500 because I think 9/12 is basically just an outro to Everyday Feels Like 9/11.
Yeah.
It is very eerie and very much captures that whole idea of like going back to work. It's just, how do you fucking do that? How do you just live through something and then just go about your day? Yeah, the kids playing around and having fun is a bit creepy in its placement.
Daytona 500, the country song.
This song is so good.
It's so good. Why is it so good?
Turning
so
Dale
good.
Earnhardt into an Elvis figure, basically.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna have to actually ask because I haven't searched this up yet. Who fully is Dale Earnhardt?
Dale
One of
Earnhardt.
the best NASCAR drivers ever.
He was a famous NASCAR driver that died in one of the last laps of a race in 2001. Like, he had a last lap crash that was very infamous.
There's an emblem in documentary I'll send you later, Ritz.
And his Dale Earnhardt Jr. I believe also
early.
races.
It was early 2001, so he would have
Yes.
never experienced 9/11.
But it's also like that and Chris Farley dying in the late 90s and kind of them being famous for their deaths and being these like figures in their scenes.
I've got a lot
people
of
on their mind.
I've got a lot of comparisons to do to Chris Farley, in when we get into that songs. So we're gonna save the Chris Farley until after we've analyzed Daytona 500. But you gotta wait until how autistic I got on that one.
But for for a band in Florida or for people growing up in that time, listening to country and being in that culture, like that would be a big fucking deal.
Mm-hmm.
Such excitement. I think his son was also in the race. Yeah.
There's a big line in here as well. The first to lose the race always comes in second place.
That's one of his big quotes.
Yeah, which I feel kind of has like this kind of whole kind of vibe in this whole thing of like, I mean, maybe it's more comparison and stuff like that, but like the whole what I feel like that means is kind of whole thing is like the two different kind of societies that we have. Like there are the people who are winning, and then there's everyone else. It doesn't matter like how much you're doing better than certain people, you're still basically losing because you're still getting fucked over. Saying like it's like the whole class warfare thing where people are going like, oh, the lower class attacking the middle class, but no one's attacking the fucking upper class.
Yeah.
And that's what I kind of like feel like this kind of means in there.
Yeah. I am more drawn to the mythification of Dale and kind of like, again, turning him into like this Elvis-like figure that you just kind of see out there and like kind of report back on like, I saw him pushing a shopping cart from the Walmart. And like, oh, I saw Elvis on the beach. He's still alive.
Well, knowing now about Dale Earnhardt's death, it makes that first verse of Animal Control came to collect last night's roadkill from the roadside, where fathers of drunk drivers plan a cross for their loss when the wreckers hold off. I think that
more of a connection there.
Yeah, more of a connection. Like I knew what that line was referring to, but now I kind of like I see the fucking connection on that shit.
And then,
damn, it's grotesque, man. This album's grotesque.
and
Like,
it's beautiful.
Oh no.
and then just going into more of that culture of just like hunters and having their antlers kind of like on display for people to see what they've shot and killed.
Hmm.
The deer shot dead in your truck bed, just kind of like, look, man, look at this fucking deer I got. God damn, it's grotesque. Fucking do something with that
Yeah.
shit.
It's the best country song I've heard in fucking ages.
It is. It is the highlight. It is like the single. I feel like of the album, if so to
It
speak.
is.
It's I don't know if I would say this is the song you have to listen to get an understanding of what it is, but I don't think there is a song that you can do that with.
No, there's not one single song, but I think it is like
I think yeah,
if you were to pick a
this is like.
song to show it people,
Are we ready for me to go as autistic as I can into the Chris Farley for like 3 minutes here?
Go for it.
So I want
I
to
do
first.
question why you keep using that word, but yes,
Well, I'm allowed to use it because I do have ADHD, which is connected to it, and a brother with it. So that's me allowing to use my basic, only what's the word of it? Ableist slur of my life.
fair enough. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the other reason of it is that you will notice that a lot of people with that disorder get into a savant about certain things, and I'm about to be a overlooking and over analyzing into connections that probably shouldn't even matter to this song
I
whatsoever.
learned all about the lore of Thomas the Tank Engine when I was 22 in 3 days.
Yeah, that's basically what I'm going at here.
Yeah.
So Chris Farley, I actually do know of, is a famous SNL actor who is basically what they've described here as the imagery of overconsumption. He was someone who was massively overweight, massively into drugs, and unsurprisingly died of an overdose.
With
Homer's
two
Rare is
women.
not the first artist I know of to have Chris Farley. I'm now doing a comparison to a Australian hip hop band, Hilltop Hoods, who put out an album in 2009, State of the Art, which had I think that's what it was called, which had a song called Chris Farley on there. And that whole song was basically about living your life in such a way that you party as hard till you die, like Chris Farley. I think it's a very good imagery to surprisingly have, a very punk imagery to have, as well as comparing your life to Chris Farley, who's a very public figure out there who died due to basically his own actions. But that's not the only comparison I'm going to do into here. I'm going to bring it back to another Fifth Wave album here. I'm going to bring it back to Glass Beach's the first Glass Beach album, with their self-titled song in Glass Beach. With the very ending of this line, of this song, it is said with an embarrassing sincerity, "No one unloved." 100% reminds me of the breakdown that happens in the end. Oh no, not the direct end of the Glass Beach song, but near the end, that whole build up of the "cause hey, I love you, you're okay. It's so hard to say that I fucking need you too." It brings into this whole kind of similar vibe that both of these songs seem to have. Understanding that there are a lot of people who are in the LGBT sphere that go unloved. They get completely shunned out by their parents and all this kind of thing. And I know the Glass beat song has some kind of different vibes in here, but I get this really similar going into this, and this is this kind of like warm opening and like understanding here of just how much hate, bigotry has been thrown on here, and also because of all this, because of parents that might not be so accepting into this, it also makes it very, very hard to reciprocate those feelings. Like I'm sure I'm probably not the only person who's ever had this in my life, but I know personally from having two parents that didn't really love each other, that there was a little bit of confusion in how to show love myself. Back when I was a young kid, I've now since learned personally how to do that, but there are some people who struggle to that. So I feel like this is what we get with these kind of lines of just admitting that it's really hard to express these types of feelings because of some of these vibes. Now, I personally never had parents who are unaccepting of my sexuality. I'm pretty lucky for that, but we don't really quite have that with everyone else in society.
Yeah. My stepmom is kind of in that camp.
And that's what I get from these vibes of this whole, like, it is said with an embarrassing sincerity, no one unloved. It's just probably one of the quickest and more powerful statements that these bands could do, even if it's not what it's so much meant as. But it's so good. It's just, even if it's as simply as that, we can get these little lines that are just so open and so mwah, about it all. And so just warming. It's the least grotesque lyric on this whole album.
That's true.
Yeah.
And then this is not the end of the wrap ups on this as well. This song also completely wraps up to a lot of the themes that have been done in this album. I mean, a garden grows over your bones, buried in the backyard as if new skin is referencing Skin Meadow again.
Yeah.
We're getting onto this. We're getting the themes coming back onto here. And that's what the of leaf rakes and rattlesnakes, where you make a beautiful pile of leaves, is bringing into that whole idea that a skin meadow is basically us all dying in the ground, basically. It's that whole idea that it's a bit more grotesque, but it's so beautifully grotesque.
This album is incredibly self-referential too. Like, I think there's no more room on the highway for corpses or whatever the line was.
Yeah, there's no more room on the roadside for any more memorials.
Yes, and fathers of drunk drivers.
Yes.
Just stuff like that.
Chris Farley just goes too hard for 2 minutes as well. Holy fuck.
It does.
And I think there was too, he always portrayed himself as kind of an idiot, kind of just like the funny fat man. Like, I think that was kind of part of his shtick, or at least, in a self-deprecating way, to be like that guy, right? And so a line like, I'm the last to know what I'm saying, I've forgotten more than I've learned, I am an idiot. I think that kind of ties back into why it would even be called Chris Farley. Kind of like putting yourself out there as this specific jokester type of person who, doesn't need this new skin, doesn't need to be told that no one unloved, right? Except you really do.
Mm-hmm.
You're putting up all this skin, you're putting up all this stuff as a wall. Oh yeah, I'm just the idiot fat man. It's like, no, you're more than that.
It's just such a beautiful statement for what is a 2-minute punk song.
Yeah.
Then of course you get Nursing Home Riot, which kind of goes back to what we've been talking about. There's no more room in the ground for us.
Yeah.
In the ground, we could talk about Skin Meadow, we can talk about scraping people off of the fucking road.
Surprisingly, a lot of the imagery as well in Nursing Home Riot is basically about getting your kill, and kind of thing. It's performing a hunt, but then the second verse in this whole kind of thing kind of like talks about having some self-reflection in this kind of sense. I mean, I'm personally not someone who's fully against hunting. I know there are a lot of people who do hunting for sport, which I'm against. I think it's more of a someone needs to get food at some point kind of thing. But I guess we got farming and stuff like that. I'm not gonna act like I'm fully informed on this kind of whole thing. But I do like this kind of whole like self-reflection of this whole like, yeah, this is people skinning the hunt of basically what is just helpless animals. And then this whole self-reflection that goes into this release your kill back into the wild kind of imagery that we get in here.
Yeah. I will say in a grotesque way, you kind of have to support trophy hunting, because the way that is done, like if it's all above board, is that they select a few of like the older ones, if I'm remembering correctly, and they charge millions and millions and millions of dollars for these hunting tags, and it goes back into the preservation of the animal.
When done correctly, yes.
Yeah, when done correctly, it's all good. Unfortunately, not all hunting is done.
Yes, like
done
fuck
on
poachers.
the board. Yeah.
But of course, I can't also help draw parallels because it's called Nursing Home Riot, right? So I feel like these lyrics also have parallels to aging and kind of like your mental capacity when you have aged to a certain point, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like the TV zombie No One's Home was a great example. Like that line also refers like, like someone's mental state of like, there's something there, but no one's there. Like a Patrick Bateman-esque, or like someone with like Alzheimer's or something.
Yes.
You see it go through the windows or the eyes.
The next line even continues on with that whole Chris Farley, I'm an idiot line. It goes, I am an asshole, I am an only child.
Which felt as an only child.
Yep. Yep.
Are you an asshole?
Probably.
Fair enough. Sorry, Trix. Sorry to hear it. And then the last line, I think when you've just digested everything this album has, it goes into that whole theme, I feel like, of faking normalcy. So it's referencing, obviously, telling kids that your dog's going to live on a farm or something like that. It's had to put down the dog today, tell the children he ran away.
Yeah.
But then
It's
it also goes
just
back to this faking normalcy, not even thinking about
Yeah.
it, right? Like the TV's on when no one's home in the sense of you're not really thinking about the action you're doing, you're just doing them. And there's a person there, but you can't really see them beyond just their societal actions.
mm,
Hmm.
Meanwhile, saying I'm an asshole, I'm an only child, I feel like people who are more in that position, maybe it's not always a certain thing, but someone who has been forced to be by themselves a bit more, to be the only child, may be more likely to think in certain ways and not necessarily be like that because what is society to an only child?
Hmm.
and then after all this, we get the closing track into this. Yes, we are finally on to the closing track. That's how long we've been talking about this album. Just going track by track. I feel like there's still more we're going to talk about afterwards. Floral Organs. This was the second single to this album. It is the second time I think they go the 1, 2, 3, 4, which they've done it in assisted harakiri as well, which we're going to just randomly say is a callback to Holland 1945.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it could also just be counting in. Let's not put that idea out here. This is the perfect wrap up song to all of it. It still falls into all those themes of normalcy. The last line is spitting teeth into each other's mouths back and forth until we make a smile, which is the whole kind of just smile for it, fake it till you make it kind of shit.
See, that's a fucking Jeff Mango line.
Yeah.
That is.
That's warm. That's kind of sweet in a weird way. There's something to that. And it's a
And
great
just
way to
even
end the
before-
album.
This has some of that grotesque lyricism on here as well. Climbing trees older than anyone alive. We braid our intestines together. It talks.
Yep.
She talks about being the whaler again. It's just there's a lot in this for a small track just to wrap up, and it's really good. It's a really good closer. It's really catchy. It's sung very similar to Long Distance Conjoined Twins. I think like this is the follow up song to that. Oddly enough, I feel like it's the one that I would compare back to I Became Birds. I feel like this is the follow up one. I think
In
it's
some way, sure.
fine because it's not a direct copy of it. I feel like it is still a continuation of it, which is fine in this kind of closing context, especially when everything is. Just to get some kind of callback sound wise is fine, as long as it's not a full album, which is what it's not. It also ends with the kind of distorted tape that we got at the very start of this
Yes.
album. So the album loops in that sense.
Yeah.
Well, yes.
Sorry, you want to?
Well, because yes, the album does loop in the current way, but if you kind of take the idea again that Every Day Feels Like 9/11 is supposed to be the first song in the sequence,
Then in this case, it would be this would be the interlude in that case.
Well, this is also would be the first time we hear about the Whaler.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So like the rest of the album would be the Whaler, like kind of talking more about that directly. And I think that itself is pretty fucking interesting. If Whaler First Born is the end.
I've got another album to compare this to, and this is probably the stupidest one to compare to, but it's also not. I'm gonna compare this album to None of God Infinity.
Sure.
I think None of God Infinity loops in the sense of you can start that at any point in its continuous ending instrumentation wise. I don't think there's too much on the lyrics because the lyrics are very kind of similar the whole way on that one. Whilst on here, I think it's the way that I don't actually think it's the instrumentation on here is which the perfect loop is. I think you get that tape loop obviously from the start of the album to the end of the album kind of thing. We get that, but the loop is all just where does the actual topic start on here? Where is it? I think you can start from any song lyrically wise and continue on and keep looping it. I think it fits fine. I don't think I think we're telling a story in a very non-linear way.
Sure.
because I don't think there's a start or finish to the story, and I think that's the whole point.
Right.
Mhm.
We're meant to kind of be mid loop of like every day feels like 9/11. We're just living the same shit day after day after day.
So whilst Nonagon Infinity loops and you can start from any point instrumentally, I think this goes in a very similar vein lyric wise.
Like this is putting Nonagon Infinity on its side and literally starting at track 4.
Yeah.
Now I don't know how that's going to go when you put this on a vinyl, but same with Nonagon Infinity because you still got to flip the vinyl anyway.
Sure. Yeah.
It's
Here's the thing. If you put Every Day Feels Like 9/11 as the start of the B side of the second side, then you can have it be both ways.
yeah, that is true. Actually, I'll wait until I have the vinyl ordered, so
Yeah.
wait a minute.
I plan on ordering it as soon as I have a little extra money.
But this one also goes a lot back into a sound that we actually don't have too much on this album, surprisingly. This goes into the harmonica.
Oh yeah, fucking great
Yeah.
harmonica moments.
Yeah, I mean, I Became Birds was full of a lot of harmonica on a lot of its songs, not all of it, obviously, but onto a lot of it. But we actually get pretty much less harmonica on this album. I think this is. I swear it's used somewhere else, but I think this is like the only time where we get a main focus on harmonica.
Yeah.
Which feels weird because that was a big kind of instrument that they used, but it's kind of been replaced a lot more with the
Saw.
the musical saw.
I'm looking up real quick.
That's started to get its
While
small usage.
Domino looks that up, I'm gonna tell you guys that I put together that the I Became Birds is the reason that whenever I see a harmonica get pulled out, I don't immediately panic and fear that somebody's gonna play the fucking Piano Man.
Yeah. Yeah, basically.
Wailing for Sport has the harmonica. Yeah.
Thank you. Wailing for Sword, yeah, cool. I thought somewhere else used it, but this is the this is the most that it's in the main focus.
Yeah.
It kind of closes out the song before we get into the loop, and it's very nice harmonic. Very catchy
Anyone
song.
have any thoughts on my idea about how is it? I think it's Lily Pad Pupil has a kind of a bread song progression to it at a certain point.
Kinda.
I feel like you like to compare every song to Bread Song when you get the chance.
Yeah.
It only happened twice.
That's still 2 more times than it should have. Nah, I kind of reject it. I reject regret and repent for getting so forgetful. But I also reject your Bread Song idea.
Sure.
I disagree. I think the progression is different. It might.
It's
It
not
might be
100% the
close,
same, but close enough to be reminiscent.
Mhm.
I don't think Bread Song has the most out there progression anyway. I don't think it's a simple progression, but I don't think it's so out there that it wouldn't be done by other artists anyway.
It just has a unique feel to it that I quite like, but I will notice it very easily.
That is us now going track by track.
And we
Yeah.
are
Let's just talk
indeed
about this.
over an hour.
Let's just talk about this a bit in full before we give our final thoughts. I've really kind of been struggling to think how do I think about this album comparing it to I Became Birds. And I Became Birds, when we first covered it, I think it just blew us away for the simple reason of it fucks. There is a lot more to it, but it fucks.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is surprisingly different in what feels like a very natural evolution.
Yes.
In just all the right ways. I mean, as I've said, this has got me to like country songs because I think this is some of the best written country songs that I've heard in my life. I've always like gone like say, hey, these smaller moments and stuff like that, all these softer moments, do I want to like treat them lesser because I like the heavy stuff more? But the more I listen to the softer moments, they're not the stuff that I come back to when I go individually, but they deserve their placing on the album. It gives that little relief sound wise when we need it. You can't just keep screaming in the ears for 34 minutes and then expect us to all go, oh yeah, listen to this scream instead. It's like Trix trying to describe her different weed strains.
Yeah,
And it's like if that's all you listen to, then yeah, I'm sure you can tell the differences. But it's like
and
it's
we're
an
talking
album that
about
needs its
new
softer
metal
moments.
subgenres too.
It needs it all. And I've gone and I'm just like, do I say this is better than I Became Birds? Do I say it's worse? Do I say it's on par? And in the end, they're both my children, and I love them both.
No, okay, but well, here's the question. You've called I Became Birds a 10. Is the Wailer a
Yeah,
10?
that should have been obvious from the start.
I just wanted you to say it.
I'm, it's this is genuinely I can say without a doubt with how much I've listened to this, how much I've gone into all this and all this. If there's any album that comes out this year that I say by the end of the year I enjoyed more than the Wailer, then that album has to be a 10 as well. Just without a doubt. Because I Became Birds, I also described as an EP is the weird thing, and it's technically an album.
Hmm.
I'll get Brendan McDonald to fight me on that later.
Yes.
And for now,
She will fight you.
going
on that.
in, yeah, she will absolutely fight. There's a Twitter post in which she fought Wikipedia.
Yes, I saw that.
Going on to this is a longer effort. It is by far probably also a more impressive effort. And I'm not talking about how much I enjoy it. I'm just talking about the actual just reasoning behind this. This will probably go down as one of my favorite albums. Yeah, love it. It's
Yeah,
fantastic. I yeah, this I'd honestly be surprised if there's a fifth wave emo album at the end of this that I enjoy more than this.
I'll honestly be surprised if there's an album full stop that I enjoy more than this.
Mm. It's yeah, Trix and I are both on the 10 out of 10 page.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And I don't know how to feel. Like I don't think I'm quite there with it being like that perfect, that amazing. But I also think it's going to be very important and like very influential, very much a classic going forward. I just need more time with it. Like
And the most important part is that this is probably the biggest, like, this is the most summary of our podcast in an album.
yeah.
like this is also the least amount we've covered in a minute. Where it's like I'm actually struggling to talk and like be conclusive about the Wailer more than most albums we've done recently. Because it's
I
great,
don't
it's
blame you.
good, but
I
like
don't blame you for wanting to take more time because I've honestly I've listened to this in full probably once a day since it came out, and it's kind of that that's when you realize it's like yeah you love it. It's like when you look at your partner and you just go I love the hell out of you. Yeah, I haven't felt this way about anything about this album probably since I fell in love with my partner.
Aw.
like that's sweet. Like
Yeah.
the Brightest Days is like a nice fast food meal. It's like going to Culver's or something and getting a nice burger. You're in, you're out, it's done. You had a good time, hopefully. After the night is like reliving a fun memory. It's like that was really cool. I really dug that. That was a great moment when they went for 46 minutes on that one song. Good times.
Mhm.
The Wailer is just amorphous and a different thing. It's hard to pin down. It is an experience unto itself, especially if you were like me and grew up with enough awareness to be in that post 9/11 world with just existing and seeing shit happen.
Well, I just want to
Yeah.
say a funny thing about this album as well is that I could potentially not even have one of the songs on here be my number one song of the year. We might not get another Homer's Way number one like we did in Long Distance Conjoined. There's still 6 months in a year. There could be a song that I say, yeah, I enjoyed this song more as a song.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I'm
Yeah.
straight up talking about this as an album. It's as an album. It's I wouldn't call it my favorite album of all time. I think I'd still probably even prefer In the Airplane over the Sea. I think I would still prefer Since I Left You, albums like that. But I think when I'm on my deathbed, there's a good chance that I talk about this album the same way as I talk about those. I think there's so much to unpack about this album. It is a genuinely really interesting experience. I've told a lot of people to listen to this. I've seen their reviews. I've seen a lot of sevens and stuff and sixes and eights and all that. and I feel like that's fair, to be honest. I feel like if you kind of listen to this a lot more casually, you get those type of reviews. But this is one of the few artists in which I really just am so fascinated by what they do that I love to do this deep dive on.
Yeah.
That once I've done the deep dive, I've just found so much that I like. I could say, if you want to give me one moment on this thing in which I go, maybe I'm not such the biggest fan, it might be that maybe 912, but then when you realize that 912 is just this like continuation of every day feels like 911, it's like it's only as a singled out moment in which I go, I wouldn't listen to that as a single out moment, but as a part of this album, it's kind of like Communist Daughter or The Fool. It's like I wouldn't listen
I
to
would listen
those
to
on
those
my
outside
own.
of it though.
Yeah, well, in putting in this little comparison here, it's in the sense of just in the album they just help it all just flow so well and continue on. Yeah,
I think
I
this is
have
gonna be one of those. Sorry if I interrupt your finishing point.
no, I finished actually.
I think this is gonna be one of those albums that we will see the discourse and the appreciation and all that growing in a similar way to Neutral Milk. Not exactly the same. There'll be a little bit more attention and mainstream appeal, perhaps, because Home is Where is getting up there in the charts. But it's kind of exciting to see one of those albums come out and like what happens when it does and what people are talking about, because it might not even be the same things they're talking about in a few years.
I'm so fucking happy though that it's this album.
This is the inflection point because people just agree that this is so good and that this is where fifth wave emo gets more like bona fide cred. If you want that kind of thing, then that's great. Like maybe in the way that we talk about Origami Angel Pool Kids being an entry point, right? Like this is kind of the inverse discussion of like, well, this is how
What's
we.
the what
This
do
is
you
the
move
academic.
towards?
Yeah, this is the academic part of it. Like, oh, this is why
to be
fifth wave
fair,
emo is
this
important.
very high IQ to understand Rick and Morty.
Yes, you're saying Home is Where is the Rick and Morty of fifth wave emo.
Fuck no.
Nah, most of the users in the creation.
But yes, this is what is the importance of fifth wave emo? What does fifth wave emo do? Why is it a scene that has to exist, right? And I think it's stuff like this on top of the ethos that the whole scene engenders that is making the case.
Now, I just want to go into that whole like entry point thing though. Now, if you did it obviously as an iceberg, I could see it, but if you did it as this chart, this is the thing, and it's what I say. This still, just sonic wise, is so unique to everything else that's happening in the fifth wave at the moment.
Oh yes.
What's the next artist I pick them from? Do I have to go and say, maybe you could go, okay, now you've listened to Record Setter. Now you listen to the split because Home is Where is on there. But even then, that split sounds so different to what's on here, despite there being evolutions from it.
I think you got to go with what Home is Where themselves suggest.
Yeah.
If you look on Bandcamp, their recommendation is Your Arms Are My Cocoon.
Even them, sonic wise, sounds so different.
It does, but you can present that as like, here's this. If you want more country, I don't know what to tell you.
Now I'm gonna ask Dominic, what's the time check?
Time check. We are currently over 2 hours and 10 minutes.
So
yeah.
we have probably talked about the Whaler for as long as After the Night goes on.
We
over.
still need about 7 more minutes.
No, I mean we started talking about Home is Where and the Whaler around the 52-minute mark.
Yes.
So
we're 80 minutes.
It's an hour and 27 minutes long, isn't it?
the whole of After the Night is, yes, but
Yeah.
the
Yeah,
endless
that's what I was
Into
saying.
the Endless Night is 46 minutes.
Way longer
No,
than
it's-
Into the Endless Night. I thought you were talking about the whole album.
No, I said After the Night. I think I said After the Night.
Oh, yeah, we're 130 minutes in compared to 145, so we still have a little bit to go.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I got anything else.
I don't have
Or maybe,
15
or
minutes.
we might have hit it. I don't know. It's getting late, but we're fine. It might be it might be an hour and a half actually.
Album good.
Albums is fantastic. Home
Album
is Where you're
amazing.
straight up. You're one of my favorite artists at the moment. Please respond to us on Instagram.
Yes, please. We want to interview you.
Does it ever do an interview? If we want to just gush about emo for like even 5 minutes, I'll take that. I'll just take that.
We will take that.
I am comfortable being a man, but I will be a fangirl if you come on.
We will all fangirl.
Yeah, we'll be very nervous, very anxious. We'll try our best not to disappoint you.
Yes.
Just please come on, come join. Respond to my text. Unblock me, you coward. Trix is dying. Oh no, she's getting put onto the roadside. I'm not gonna do the favorites or least favorites joke. We all know it.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
I gotta shout out Daytona 500 as like this special moment for me. Beyond that, there's no favorites or least favorites, really.
I want to spotlight the entire album.
Dominic, I got just one quick question. You do the rolling rankings. I've got to ask, and you don't have to tell me what it's above or what it's below or anything. At this current moment of time, you don't have to think too hard into it. Just give a rough idea. Where is this in both the ranking for 2023 albums and the ranking for albums we've done this year in general?
I don't know. I do not know. I haven't even like ranked it yet because going based on my feelings right now, I would probably put the Whaler as third because I haven't finished digesting the meal yet. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
I know how I
know
feel
what
about
you mean.
Origami. I know how I feel about Parannoul. Right? So I don't think it's quite there yet for me to be like, oh, it's gonna be fucking above win and lose, but below this or that, right? Like
Yeah.
it's good. They're all gonna be fucking up there. Like they're all gonna be, One Wayne G is still a very special thing for me in 2023. Maybe something will beat that, but I'm gonna still say, they're gonna be all fucking up there in the top of the above Parannoul's After the Magic, above Momentary Warmth, probably.
Trix, you reckon this is probably both of our favorite thing that we've done this year, full stop?
Yeah.
Yep. Me and Trix are based. Sorry, Dominic. Fucking you, Dominic. You know I love you.
We love you, Domino.
It's just one of those things. It's just such a unique album.
That's fair. I honestly, I commend you more for admitting that you need more time to digest instead of just instead of giving a bullshit answer.
Yes, it's totally valid.
It's like, okay, because I don't even want to rank my shit this week because it's like, oh, I'm gonna say the fucking Brightest Days is the best one because I've been listening to it more. It's not even the most musically impressive album here. It's only more listenable because it's shorter and the songs fucking hit hard because they're pop punk, right? Like After the Night, I think is more impressive. After the Night has a lot more interesting tracks that I will go back to as well. But the Whaler is its own fucking beast of a thing.
I've got to say something, Dominic.
Yes.
I don't think there's anything more beautiful than knowing that this whole fifth wave emo draft kind of idea that you've done has ended in the most emo thing possible, giving you an existential crisis.
Yeah.
I mean, this is all it's been building up to. This is the entire thing.
Dominic's just there in a mental ward going like, no, is it Origami Angel? Is it Parannoul? Is it Home to He's been doing this for 5 years.
They've all dropped 3 more albums and stopped producing albums.
Back in the 20th century, I had all 5 of your albums. That was 1,000 years ago. Now we have 7.
Fuck, what was that about?
Is that
I know it's from Futurama. I know it's from Futurama. I forget what
Beastie Boys.
Beastie Boys, that's right.
Yeah.
And then he asks if he can borrow them, so he can totally not copy them.
Yeah.
But you two can rank.
Oh, yeah, I will. Last one's Origami Angel, number 2 is Parannoul, number 1 time as well.
And yeah, that's my ranking too.
I abstain from ranking for the moment.
Coward! I've never seen that movie.
I'll fucking say that Home was where his third, Origami Angel's either first or second, Parannoul's probably second. I don't know. I could say anything.
It's you're on your own tapeworm.
But it doesn't feel good to say any of that, so I'd rather not mean it.
That's fair. That's fair. I'm just Trix called me a coward earlier. I'm doing a callback. It's like how the callbacks happen in the way.
Oh, I know. I'm just still having an existential crisis.
Yeah. But what are we doing next week after you're going to pass your existential crisis?
Well, we are doing our final week, our final picks for the final round of this draft. And I was going to post the lists in the chat but I forgot. So I'm going to do it now. Because I've went ahead
Yeah.
and I have extended the list, so now there are 40 picks per list.
Oh, shit.
I have
But
stretched as far as I possibly could. I probably could have put even more if I wanted.
have I got the timings wrong, or are we also doing something else this week?
Oh, for next week directly, we're doing something very different. We're talking about interviews. Directly next week, we're interviewing Grief Eater.
Oh, yeah.
Woo!
So we're doing a little bit of a break. We're having a little bit of a emo, fifth wave emo to the side, doing something very related. But their EP is out in the end of July, so
Yeah, by the time we release the episode, it'll probably be about to come out.
right. But then after that, that's when we do our final week of the draft. But I'm gonna, for the moment, though, we still should probably pick for that. So I'm gonna post first the legacy picks in the list in the thing one more time. If I could just copy paste correctly, that'd be great.
Control C, Control V. Don't fail me now. That's my job. I am
Oh,
problem.
the list is now too long, so I'm going to.
Oh, shit.
So are we picking? Is it like the first week in which we're picking one legacy, one new one, or
I
is
am
it?
letting you pick whatever the fuck you want from these two lists.
Oh, shit.
Oh, ooh.
So because we have 80 projects here to pick from, so there's a lot of different things you can do. Take some time, and of course the other one is still fucking too big. So I'm gonna
Yeah.
cut and paste again.
Tell you what, it's gonna be. It's gonna be an interesting week, I feel. I'm
Yeah.
thinking, what do I pick to fill it up? And I've decided on one. I think there's one that's on this list that I just have to pick. So I feel like we're going to pick this the same way that we picked last week, and we're going to all pick one until we're done picking.
Okay, yeah,
I
that's
think I
fine.
know exactly the one you're going to pick, too, which...
And I think I know the one you're gonna pick because I think I put it there for you to pick.
I think it's very obvious. It's very obvious. I'm going to start off with Masatui. Fill the bathtubs,
Yes,
turn off the lights, embrace
Yeah.
a new millennium. Get some Australian representation in here.
because if Mazatui is technically part of the fifth wave emo scene, we should just do it.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. I'll go next.
Okay.
I'm gonna go with a kind of a theme this week. Of Chicago and maybe more than that. And this band is kind of in the fourth wave, fifth wave split of like kind of like a Chinese football situation. But I
Mhm.
want to do the Kalemasi album Laughs.
Okay.
I felt that was in there for you to pick.
Yes.
Very, very unsurprising pick. Good job.
Trix.
I'm kind of still scrolling. Give me a second. There's a lot of stuff here.
It is a
Oh
lot.
yeah.
This is a really big, big list.
I'm just going to do a panic pick and do Through the Soil, too.
Oh. Granted, we do have 2 weeks, so that
Yeah,
works.
that was my reasoning. And also, I knew you wouldn't have put that on there if you didn't expect somebody to pick it.
I'm going to be nice. I'm not going to pick the Cologne Chord one.
God
But
damn. That would just put us at doing fucking One Lane G again.
Yeah.
nah. I've got another bone to pick with you two in this case. There was definitely an artist in which I liked a lot more than you two did. So fuck you, we're doing it again.
Okay.
Lobster fight, pink, black, and orange in the corners.
So lobsters and
fight.
mice.
Lobster fight. Lobster fight.
Okay.
Okay.
And then I am going to go stay with my theming of picking from Chicago and also kind of from artists that I kind of know. I'm going to pick the new Rustring album, North to the Future.
Which one was that called? Sorry, Rustring. Thank you.
Yes.
I figured that out. Chicks, did you have any more that you wanted to pick?
Yes, I'm going to pick the shortest one I can find, too, for balance. I'm
fair
going to
enough.
do Magnolia Gigolo, Soon All You'll Have Is Memories EP.
What a title on that one. Which one was that? The one that had the great album art?
No, that's Catching Techniques.
That's Catching Techniques. Is that a? I'm just taking a look at all the stuff on here. Blah blah blah. Just trying to see sports. Yeah, I picked that one as well.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, I think we talked about too much about that album. I think we just had to pick that, and that's where I'm gonna end. I'm gonna pick those three.
I don't know, Trix, you want to pick another short one for fun?
Nah, I feel guilty enough for doing Through the Soil.
I think Through the Soil had to be picked out. It's got a lot of artists in that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's one I kind of want to pick. I'm curious about it. We discussed it before, but it doesn't fit with the theme that I'm going for.
Does it really matter?
Do you two care?
No, not really. Go ahead.
Go for it.
Let's go with It's Okay, I'm Fine. Your worst fear was having a song written about you, so I wrote these songs about you.
Yeah, let's go with the full angst.
Yes.
Yeah. Woo! I think we'll end it there. I'm literally writing in here everything that we got on this because that's a
It's
lot.
a lot.
And
All
I've
right.
probably already forgotten some of it.
So, to recap, we are doing Mousatui's Fill the Bathtubs, Turn Off the Lights, and Brace for the New Millennium. We are doing Lobster Fights. Oh god, was it? Oh, shit. Black, pink, black, and orange in the corners.
Yep.
Doing Catching Techniques.
Something about sports.
Yes, literally something about sports. Through the Soil 2. Magnolia, Geo Geo. Soon All You Have Is Memories. Kalimasi's Laughs. Rust Rings North to the Future. It's Okay, I'm Fine's EP. What's it called
I
again?
totally read that as Gigolo. I didn't even realize.
Your worst fear was having a song written about you, so I wrote these songs about you.
Yeah.
Is that everything?
I believe so. If anyone else has anything, please speak now or forever hold your peas.
And go home in separate cars.
I'm gonna say that's everything, except it's not.
Oh,
Because what have you done? What have you done?
Surprise.
surprise, motherfucker.
I'm going to drop a link in our chat here.
Oh shit.
I don't want us to share this link beyond us, but
Yep.
we're going to be listening to this.
Oh shit.
Uh,
Okay.
That is fair. That is fair. I'm not gonna spoil this one. If Dominic wants to announce what it is, Dominic can announce what it is. Else, I think we keep this one a little secret.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's keep it a secret. Let's make it a fun surprise.
Oh boy,
I'm
we're
surprised.
covering the new Radiohead.
Tom York directly DM'd us on Twitter.
Bleep that out for the memes as well. But until then, I have been Vigilant. You can catch me on my website, vigilant4kids.github.io. I also have a YouTube channel that's in the description below.
I've been Trix. You can catch me on Twitter at procrastinaut_. It's like procrastinating astronaut, then an underscore at the end of it. I'm also somehow on Blue Sky with just procrastinaut, no underscore.
Hell
and
yeah.
I'm currently working on a Twitter bot that just designs random breakfast sandwiches.
Oh fuck, that's beautiful.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Like it has like different breads, different proteins, different spreads, different ways to cook the egg.
And I'm Dominic. You can catch me online at DACICHOCKI on Twitter. I have a YouTube page, Dominic Chikoki, if you wish to go there. It's not very important, but it is there. And I am also sometimes on the Games My Mom Found podcast. We did an episode about Kingdom Hearts 2 not too long ago. You can check that out as well.
Hell yeah.
That's gonna be it.
Have a good week.
You too.